Prologue by Madison Cawein. LibriVox.org. There is a poetry that speaks through common things. The grasshopper that in the hot weeds creaks and creaks says all of summer to my ear. And in the cricket's cry I hear the fireside speak, and feel the frost work mysteries of silver near on country casements, while deep lost in snow the gate-post seems a sheeted ghost. And other things give rare delight. The guttural harps the green frogs tune, those minstrels of the falling night, that hail the sickle of the moon from grassy pools that glass her loom. Or all of August, in its loud dry cry, the locust call at noon, that emphasizes heat, no cloud of lazy white makes less with its cool shroud. The rain, whose cloud dark lids the moon, that great white eyeball of the night, makes music for me. To its tune I hear the flowers unfolding white, the mushroom growing, and the slight green sound of grass that dances near, the melon ripening with delight, and in the orchard, soft and clear, the apple redly rounding out its sphere. The grigs make music as of old, to which the fairies whirl and shine within the moonlight's prodigal gold. On woodways wild with many a vine, when all the wilderness with wine of stars is drunk, I hear it say, "Is God restricted to confine His wonders only to the day, that yields the abstract tangible to clay?" And to my ear the wind of morn, when on her rubric forehead far one star burns big, lifts a vast horn of wonder where all murmurs are, in which I hear the waters war, the torrent and the blue abyss, and pines that terrace bar on bar the mountain side, like lovers' kiss, and whisper words where all of grandeur is. The jutting crags, dark iron veined with ore, the peaks where eagles scream, that pour their cataracts, rainbow stained, like hair in many a mountain stream, can lift my soul beyond the dream of all religions, make me scan no mere external or extreme, but inward pierce the outward plan, and learn that rocks have souls as well as man. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In the Shadow of the Beeches by Madison Cawein. LibriVox.org. In the shadow of the beeches, where the fragile wildflowers bloom, where the pensive silence pleaches green a roof of cool perfume, have you felt an awe imperious, as when in a church mysterious windows paint with God the gloom? In the shadow of the beeches, where the rock-ledged waters flow, where the sun's slant splendor bleaches every wave to foaming snow, have you felt a music solemn, as when minister, arch and column, echo organ worship low? In the shadow of the beeches, where the light and shade are blent, where the forest bird beseeches, and the breeze is brimmed with scent, is it joy or melancholy that overwhelms us partly, wholly, to our spirit's betterment? In the shadow of the beeches lay me, where no eye perceives, where, like some great arm that reaches gently as a love that grieves, one gnarled root may clasp me kindly, while the long years, working blindly, slowly change my dust to leaves. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Fallen Beech by Madison Cawein. LibriVox.org. Never more at doorways that are barken shall the madcap wind knock and the moonlight, nor the circle which thou once didst darken shine with footsteps of the neighboring moonlight, visitors for whom thou oft didst hearken. Never more, gallooned with cloudy laces, shall the morning, like a fair freebooter, make thy leaves his richest treasure places, nor the sunset, like a royal suitor, clothe thy limbs with his imperial graces. And no more, between the savage wonder of the sunset and the moon's upcoming, shall the storm with boisterous hoof-beats under thy dark roof dance, fawn-like to the humming of the panpipes of the rain and thunder. Off the satyr spirit beauty drunken of the spring called, and the music measure of thy sap made answer, and thy sunken veins grew vehement with youth, whose pressure swelled thy gnarly muscles, winter shrunken, and the germs deep down in darkness rooted, bubbled green from all thy million oilets, where the spirits, rain and sunbeam suited, of the April made their whispering toilets, or within thy stately shadow footed. Oft the hours of blonde summer tinkled at the windows of thy twigs, and found thee bird blithe, or with shapely bodies twinkled lissom feet of naked flowers around thee, where thy mats of moss lay sunbeam sprinkled. And the autumn with his gypsy-coated troop of days beneath thy branches rested, swarthy faced and dark of eye, and throated songs of hunting, or with red hand tested every nut burr that above him floated. Then the winter, barren browed, but rich in shaggy followers of frost and freezing, made the floor of thy broad boughs his kitchen, trapper-like to camp in, grimly easing limbs snow-furred and moccasined with lichen. Now, alas, no more do these invest thee with the dignity of whilom gladness. They, unto whose hearts thou once confessed thee of thy dreams, now know thee not, and sadness sits beside thee, where forgot dost rest thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Coigne of the Forest by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Daryl Horton on May 2019 in Columbia, South Carolina. The hills hang woods around, where green below, dark, breezy boughs of beech trees mats the moss, crisp with the brittle hulls of last year's nuts. The water hums one bar there, and a glow of gold lies steady where the trailers toss. Red, bug-led blossoms and a rock abuts. In spots the wild phlox and oxalis grow, where beech roots bulge the loam and welt across the grass-grown road and roll it into ruts. And where the sumac brakes grow dusk and dense, among the rocks great yellow violets, bluebells and windflowers bloom. The agaric in dampness crowds, a fungus thick, intense, with gold and crimson and wax white that sets the May apples along the terraced creek at bold defiance, where the old rail fence divides the hollow. There the bee-bird wets his bill, and there the elder hedge is thick. No one can miss it, for two catbirds nest, calling all morning in the trumpet vine, and there at noon the pewee sits and floats, a woodland welcome, and his varied best. At eve the red bird sings, as if to sign the record of its loveliness with notes. At night the moon stoops over it to rest, and unreluctant stars, in whose faint shine there runs a whisper as of wind-swept oats. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A House in the Hills by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Daryl Horton on May 2019 in Columbia, South Carolina. Old hearts that hold the saddest memories are the most beautiful, and such make sweet, light, happy moods of younger natures which their sadness contacts and so sanctifies. And such to me is an old gabled house, deserted and neglected and unknown, lost in the tangled hollow of its hills, dark, cedared hills, and dreamy orchard lands, with but its host of shrouded memories, haunting its ruined rooms and desolate halls, pathetic with their fallen finery, and whispering through its cobwebbed crevices, and roomy hearths that sigh with ceaseless wind, undreamed of things that happened long ago. Here in gray afternoons I love to sit and hear the running rain along the roof, the creak and crack of noises that are born of silence or mysterious agencies, the fitful footfalls of the wind adown, grand, winding stairways, massy banistered, a clapping door, and then a sudden hush, as if the old house held its breath to see, invisible to me, a presence pass that brings a pleasant terror stiffening through the tingling veins and staring from the eyes. Then comes the rain again along the roof, and in rain-rotted room and rain-stained hall, the drip and whisper of the wind and rain seem viewless footsteps of the sometime lords and mistresses who lived here in the past, and could the state material but assume a state clairvoyant, then the dream-drugged eyes perhaps might see, from room to dusty room, the ghost of stately gentlemen glide by, and glimmering ladies, all beruffled, trail, long, haughty silks, miraculously stiff. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Wind by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Daryl Horton on May 2019 in Columbia, South Carolina. Wind of the East, if thou pass by the land where my loved ones dwell, I pray the fullest of greetings bear to them from me, their lover, and say that I am the pledge of passion still. From the Arabic. The ways of the wind are eerie, and I love them all, the blithe, the mad, and the dreary, spring, winter, and fall, when it tells to the waiting crocus its beak to show, and hangs on a wayside locust bloom bunches of snow, when it comes like a balmy blessing from the musky wood, the half-grown roses caressing till their cheeks burn blood, when it rolls in the autumn season and winds with rain or sleet like a mind without reason or a soul in pain, when the woodways once so spicy with bud and bloom are desolate, dead and icy as the icy tomb, when the puffed owl crouched and frowsy in the hollow tree sobs dolorous, cold and drowsy its shuddering melody, then I love to sit in December where the big hearth sings, and dreaming forget and remember a host of things. And the wind, I hear how it strangles and wails and sighs on the roof's sharp, shivering angles that front the skies, how it shouts and rumps and tumbles in attics overhead, and the great-throated chimney rumbles, then all at once falls dead, then comes like the footstep stealing of a child on the stair, or a bent old gentleman filling his slippered way with care, and my soul grows anxious-hearted for those once dear, the long-lost loves departed in the wind draw near, and I seem to see their faces, not one estranged, in their old accustomed places round the wind-hearth ranged. And the wind that waits and poises, where the shadows sway, seems their visionary forces calling me far away. Then I wake in tears and hear it, welling outside my door, or is it some wandering spirit weeping upon the moor? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rain in the Woods by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. When on the leaves the rain persists, and every gust brings showers down, when copse and woodland smoke with mists, I take the old road out of town, into the hills through which it twists. I find the vale where catnip grows, where boneset blooms with moisture bowed, the vale through which the red creek flows, turbid with hill-washed clay, and loud as some wild horn a huntsman blows. Around the root the beetle glides, a burnished beryl, and the ant, large, agate red, a garnet, slides beneath the rock, and every plant is roof for some frail thing that hides. Like knots against the trunks of trees the lichen-colored moths are pressed, and wedged in hollow blooms the bees hang pollen-clotted. In its nest the wasp has crawled and lies at ease. The locust harsh, that sharply saws the silence of the summer noon, the katydid, that thinly draws its fine file o'er the bars of moon, and grasshopper, that drills each pause, the mantis, long-clawed, furtive, lean, fierce feline of the insect hordes, and dragonfly, gauzed-winged and green, beneath the wild grape's leaves and gourds have housed themselves and rest unseen. The butterfly and forest bird are huddled on the same gnarled bough, from which, like some rain-voweled word, that dampness hoarsely utters now. The tree-toad's guttural voice is heard. I crouch and listen, and again the woods are filled with phantom forms, with shapes grotesque in cloudy train, that rise and reach to me cool arms of mist, dim, wandering wraiths of rain. I see them come, fantastic, fair, chill, mushroom-colored. Sky and earth grow ghostly with their floating hair and trailing limbs, that have their birth in wetness, fungi of the air. O wraiths of rain, O ghosts of mist, still fold me, hold me, and pursue. Still let my lips by yours be kissed. Still draw me with your hands of dew unto the tryst, the dripping tryst. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Heat by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Mira Eagle. Now is it as if spring had never been, and winter but a memory and a dream. Here where the summer stands her lap of green, heaped high with bloom and beam, among her blackberry lilies low that lean to kiss her feet, or freckle-browed that stare upon the dragonfly which slimly seen, like a blue jewel flickering in her hair, sparkles above them there. Knee-deep among the tepid pools the cows chew a slow cud or switch a slower tail, half sunk in sleep beneath the beechen boughs, where thin the wood gnats ail. From bloom to bloom the languid butterflies drowse, the sleepy bees make hardly any sound. The only things the sun rays can arouse, it seems, are two black beetles rolling round upon the dusty ground. Within its channel glares the creek and shrinks, beneath whose rock the furtive crawfish hides, in stagnant places, where the green frog blinks and water's strider glides. Far hotter it seems for the bird that drinks, the startled kingfisher that screams and flies, hotter and lonelier for the purples and pinks of weeds that bloom, whose sultry perfumes rise, stifling the swooning skies. From ragweed follows, rye fields heap with sheaves, from blistering rocks no moss or lichens crest, and from the road where every hoof-stroke heaves a cloud of burning dust. The hotness quivers, making limp the leaves that lull like panting tongues. The pulsing heat seems a wan wimple that the summer weaves, a veil in which she wraps, as in a sheet, the shriveling corn and wheat. Furious incessant in the weeds and briars the sawing weed bugs sing, and heat begot the grasshoppers so many strident wires, staccato, stinging hot. A lash of whirling sound that never tires, the locust flails the noon, where harnessed thirst, beside the road spring many a shod hoof mires, into the trough thrusts his hot head, immersed, round which cool bubbles burst. The sad, sweet voice of some wood spirit who laments while watching a loved oak tree die. From the deep forest comes the wood dove's coo, a long lost, lonely cry. Oh, for a breeze, a mighty wind to woo the woods to stormy laughter, sough like grain the world with freshness of invisible dew, and pile above far, fevered hill and plain, cloud bastions black with rain. End poem. This recording is public domain.
Young September by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. With a look and a laugh where the stream was flowing, September led me along the land, with a goldenrod and lobelia glowing seemed burning torches within her hand, and faint as the thistles or milkweed's feather, I glimpsed her form in the sparkling weather. Now 'twas her hand and now her hair that tossed me welcome everywhere, that lured me onward through the stately rooms of forest hung and carpeted with glooms, and widowed wide with azure, doors with green, through which rich glimmers of a robe were seen, now like some deep marshmallow rosy gold, now like the great jopar weed fold on fold of heavy mauve, and now like the intense massed ironweed of purple opulence. Along the bank in a wild procession of gold and sapphire the blossoms blew, and borne on the breeze came their soft confession in syllabled musk and honey dew, in words unheard that their lips keep saying, sweet as the lips of children praying. And so meseemed I heard them tell how here her loving glance once fell upon this bank, and from its azure grew the agerator mist flowers' happy hue, how from her kiss, as crimson as the dawn, the cardinal flower drew its vermilion, and from her hair's blond touch the elegant pain evolved the glory of its golden rain, while from her starry footsteps redolent the aster pearled its flowery firmament. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Vintager by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org. Among the fragrant grapes she bows, long violet clusters heap her hands, and with bright brows on him bestows sweet looks like soft commands. And from her sunburnt throat at times, as bubbles burst on new-made wine, a happy fit of merry rhymes rings down the hills of vine. And in his heart, remorseless, sweet, grew big the red grape, passion there, his heart that, ever at her feet, was filled with love's despair. But she, who ne'er the honeyed must of love had drained, a grown-up child, saw in him merely one to trust, and broke his heart, and smiled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Black Vesper's Pageants by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. The day all fierce with carmine turns, an Indian face towards earth undies. The west, like some gaunt vase in urns, its ashes under smouldering skies, athwart whose bowl one red cloud streams, wild as some dream and Aztec dreams. Now shadows mass above the world, and night comes on with wind and rain. The mulberry-coloured leaves are hurled like frantic hands against the pane, and through the forests bending low, night stalks like some gigantic woe. In hollows where the thistle shakes, a hoar-bloom like a witch's light. From weed and flower the rain-wind rakes dead sweetness, as a wild man might. From autumn leaves the woods among dig some dead woman, fair and young. Now let me walk the woodland ways, alone, except the thoughts that are akin to such wild nights and days. A portion of the storm that far fills heaven and earth tumultuously, and my own soul with ecstasy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Twilight Moth by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by rumpledpoetry. Dusk is thy dawn, when Eve puts on her state of gold and purple in the marbled west. Thou comest forth like some embodied trait, or dim conceit, a lily-bud confessed, or of a rose, the visible wish, that white goes softly messengering through the night, whom each expectant flower makes its guest. All day the primroses have thought of thee, their golden heads close haremed from the heat. All day the mystic moonflowers, silkenly veiled snowy faces, that no bee might greet, or butterfly that weighed with pollen past, keeping sultana charms for thee at last, their lord, who comest to salute each sweet. Cool-throated flowers that avoid the day's too fervid kisses, every bud that drinks the tipsy dew, and to the starlight plays nocturnes of fragrance, thy winged shadow links in bonds of secret brotherhood and faith. O bearer of their order's shibboleth, like some pale symbol fluttering o'er these pinks, what dost thou whisper in the balsam's ear that sets it blushing, or the hollyhock's? A syllabled silence that no man may hear, as dreamily upon its stem it rocks. What spell dost bear from listening plant to plant, like some white witch, some ghostly ministrant, some spectre of some perished flower of phlox? O voyager of that universe which lies between the four walls of this garden fair, whose constellations are the fireflies that wheel their instant courses everywhere, mid fairy firmaments, wherein one sees mimic Boetes in the Pleiades, thou steerest like some fairy ship of air, gnome wrought of moonbeam fluff and gossamer, silent as scent. Perhaps thou chariotest Mab or King Oberon, or haply her his queen, Titania, on some midnight quest. Oh, for the herb, the magic Euphrasie, that should unmask thee to mine eyes, ah me, and all that world, at which my soul hath guessed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Grasshopper by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Mira. What joy you take in making hotness hotter, in emphasizing dullness with your buzz, making monotony more monotonous. When summer comes and drouth hath dried the water in all the creeks, we hear your ragged rasp filling the stillness, or as urchins beat a stagnant pond whereon the bubbles gasp. Your switch-like music whips the midday heat. O burr of sound caught in the summer's hair, we hear you everywhere. We hear you in the vines and the berry brambles, along the unkept lanes, among the weeds, amid the shadeless meadows gray with seeds, and by the wood round which the rail fence rambles, sawing the sunlight with your sultry saw. Or like a tomboy truants at their play with noisy mirth among the barn's deep straw, you sing away the careless summer day, O briar-like voice that clings in idleness to summer's drowsy dress. You tramp of insects, vagrant and unheeding, improvident, who the summer make one long green mealtime, and for winter take no care, eyes singing or just merely feeding. Happy-go-lucky vagabond, though frost shall pierce ere long your coat of green or brown, and pinch your body, let no song be lost, but as you lived into your grave go down, like some small poet with his little rhyme, forgotten of all time. End poem. This recording is public domain.
Forest and Field by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Green watery jets of light let through the rippling foliage drenched with dew, and golden glimmers warm and dim that in the vistaed distance swim, where round the wood spring's oozy urn the limp loose fronds of forest fern trail like the tresses, green and wet, a wood nymph binds with violet. O'er rocks that bulge and roots that knot the emerald amber mosses clot. From matted walls of briar and brush the elder nods its plumes of plush, and Argus-eyed with bloom on bloom the wild rose breathes its wild perfume. May-apples, ripening yellow, lean with oblong fruit, a lemon green, near Indian turnips, long of stem that bear an acorn oval gem, as if some woodland Bacchus there, while braiding locks of hyacinth hair with ivy trod, had idly tossed his thyrsus down, and so had lost, and bloodroot, that from scarlet wombs puts forth in spring its milk-white blooms, that then like starry footsteps shine of April under beech and pine, at which the gnarled eyes of trees stare, big as fawns, at Dryades, that bend above the fountain's spar as white and naked as a star. The stagnant stream flows sleepily, thick paved with lily pads. The bee, brown, honey-drunk, a besarred, booms past the mottled toad, that hid in calamus and blue-eyed grass, beside the water's pooling glass. Silenius-like, eyes stolid, the maenad glittering dragonfly, and pennyroyal and peppermint pour dry hot odors without stint from fields and banks of many streams, and in their scent one almost seems to see Demeter pass, her breath sweet with her triumph over death. A haze of floating saffron, sound of shy crisp creepings o'er the ground, the dip and stir of twig and leaf, tempestuous gusts of spices brief, borne over bosks of sassafras by winds that foot it on the grass. Sharp, sudden songs and whisperings that hint at untold hidden things. Pan and Sylvanus, who of old kept sacred each wild wood and wold. A wily light beneath the trees quivers and dusks with every breeze. A hamadryad, haply, who, culling her morning meal of dew from frail, accustomed cups of flowers, now sees some satyr in their bowers, or hears his goat-like hoof snapping press a brittle branch, and in distress shrinks back, her dark dishevelled hair veiling her limbs one instant there. Down precipices of the dawn the rivers of day are drawn, the soundless torrents, free and far, of gold that deluge every star. There is a sound of winds and wings that fills the woods with carolings, and dashed on moss and flower and fern, and leaves that quiver, breathe and burn, rose radiance smites the solitudes, the dew-drenched hills, the dripping woods that twitter as with canticles of bird and brook, an air that smells of flowers and buds and boisterous bees, delirious honey and wet trees. Through briars that trip them, one by one, with swinging pails that flash the sun, a troop of girls comes, barriers, whose bare feet glitter where they pass, through dewdrop trembling tufts of grass. And oh, their laughter and their cheers wake echo on her shrubby rocks, who answering from her mountain mocks with rapid fairy horns, as if each mossy vale and weedy cliff has its imperial Oberon, who seeking his Titania, hid in coverts caverned from the sun, in kingly wrath had called and chid. Cloud feathers, oozing orange light, make rich the Indian locks of night, her dusky waist with sultry gold girdled, and buckled fold on fold. One star, a sound of bleating flocks, great shadows stretched along the rocks like giant curses overthrown by some Arthurian champion, soft swimming sorceries of mist that streak blue glens with amethyst, and tinkling in the clover dells the twilight sound of cattle bells. And where the marsh in reed and grass burns angry as a shattered glass, the flies blur sudden gold and shine like drops of amber scattered wine, spun high by reeling bacchanals, when Bacchus wreathes his curling hair with vine leaves, and from every lair his worshippers around him calls. They come, a happy throng, the barriers with lilt and song, their pails brimmed black to tin bright eaves with luscious fruit, kept cool with leaves of aromatic sassafras, twixt which a berry often slips, like laughter, from the purple mass, wine swollen as Silenius' lips. The tanned and tired noon climbs high, up burning reaches of the sky. Below the drowsy belts of pines the rock-ledged river leaps and shines, and over rainless hill and dell is blown the harvest's sultry smell, while in the fields one sees and hears the brawny-throated harvesters, their red brows beaded with the heat, by twos and threes among the wheat flash their hot scythes. Behind them press the binders, men and maids who sing like some mad troop of piping Pan, while all the hillsides, echoing, ring such sounds of aerial airiness as haunted freckled Caliban. Oh ho, 'tis noon, I say, the roses blow, away, away, above the hay, to the song o' the bees the roses sway, the love lays that they hum all day, so low, the roses minne-singers they. Up velvet lawns of lilac skies the tawny moon begins to rise, behind low blue-black hills of trees, as rises up in siren seas, to rock in purple deeps hip-hid, a virgin-bosomed Oceanid. Gaunt shadows crouch by tree and scaur, dusky shaggy satyrs waiting for the nymphs of moon, the dryads white, who take with loveliness the night, and glorify it with their love. The sweet far notes I hear beyond dim pines and mellow ways, the song of some fair harvester, the lovely limnad of the grove, whose singing charms me while it slays. O deep, the earth and air are sunk in sleep. Adieu to care. Now everywhere is rest, and by the old oak there the maiden with the nut-brown hair doth keep tryst with her lover, the young and fair. Like Atalanta's spheres of gold, within the orchard apples rolled from sudden hands of boughs that lay, their leaves like palms against the day. And near them pears of rusty brown roll bruised, and peaches pink with down, and furry as the ears of Pan, or like Diana's cheeks, a tan beneath which burnt a tender fire, or wan as Psyche's with desire, and down the orchard vistas. Young, a hickory basket by him swung, a hat of straw against the sun drawn shadowy o'er his face. He strode as if he looked to find some one, his eyes searched every bend of road. Before him, like a living burr, rattled the noisy grasshopper, and where the cows' melodious bells trailed music up and down the dells, beside the spring that o'er the ground went whimpering like a fretful hound, he saw her waiting, fair and slim, her pail forgotten there, for him, yellow as sunset skies, and pale as fairy clouds that stay or sail through azure vaults of summer, blue as summer heavens, the wild flowers grew, and blossoms on which spurts of light fell laughing, like the lips one might fain once were Hebe's or a girl's that laughter lights with rows of pearls. Long ferns in murmuring masses heaped, and mosses moist, in beryl steeped, and musk aromas of the wood, and silence of the solitude, and everything that near her blew, the spring had showered thick with dew. Across the rambling fence she leaned, her fresh round arms all white and bare, her artless beauty, bonnet screened, simplicity from feet to hair. A wood thrush gurgled in a vine. Ah, 'tis his step, 'tis he she hears. The wild rose smelt like some rare wine. He comes, ah yes, 'tis he who nears. And her brown eyes and happy face said welcome, and with rustic grace he leant beside her, and they had some talk with youthful laughter glad. I know not what, I know but this, its final period was a kiss. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Summer by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Greg Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. Hang out your loveliest star, O night, your richest rose, O dawn, to greet sweet summer, her, who, clothed in light, leads earth's best hours on. Hark, how the wild birds of the woods throat it within the dewy solitudes. The brook sings low and soft, the trees make song, as from her heaven aloft comes blue-eyed summer like a girl along. And as the day her lover leads her in, how bright his beauty glows, how red his lips that ever try to win her mouth's delicious rose. And from the beating of his heart warm winds arise, and sighing thence depart. And from his eyes and hair the light and dew fall round her everywhere, and heaven above her is an arch of blue. Come to the forest, or the treeless meadows, deep with their hay or grain. Come where the hills lift high their thrones of shadows, and tawny orchards reign. Come where the reapers whet the scythe, where golden sheaves are heaped, where barriers blithe, with willow basket and with pail, swarm knoll and plain, where flowers freckle every vale, and beauty goes with hands of berry stain. Come where the dragon flies, a brassy blue, flit round the wildwood streams, and, sucking at some horn of honey-dew, the wild bee hums and dreams. Come where the butterfly waves wings of sleep, gold-disked and mottled over blossoms deep. Come where beneath the rustic bridge the creek frog cries, or in the shade the rainbowed midge, above the emerald pools with murmuring flies. Come where the cattle browse within the brake, as red as oak and strong, where cattle bells the echoes faintly wake, and milkmaids sing their song. Come where the vine-trailed rocks with waters hoary tell to the sun some legend old or story, or where the sunset to the land speaks words of gold, where ripeness walks a wheaten band about her brow, making the buds unfold. Come where the woods lift up their stalwart arms unto the star-sown skies, knotted and gnarled that to the winds and storms fling mighty rhapsodies, or to the moon repeat what they have seen, when night upon their shoulders vast doth lean. Come where the dew's clear syllable slips from the rose, and where the fireflies fill the dark with golden music of their glows. Now while the dingles in the vine-roofed glens whisper their flowery tale, unto the silence in the lakes and fens, unto the moonlight pale, murmur their rapture, let us seek her out, her of the honey throat and peach sweet pout, summer, and at her feet the love of old lay like a sheaf of wheat, and of our hearts the purest gold of gold. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Indian Summer by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. The dawn is a warp of fever, the eve is a woof of fire, and the month is a singing weaver, weaving a red desire. With stars dawn dices with even, for the rosy gold they heap on the blue of the day's broad heaven, on the back of the night's wide deep. It's rains to the blood and marry, the season's a prince who burns with the teasing lusts that harry his heart for a wench who spurns. It's crown us a beaker with sherry to drink to the doxy's heels, a tankard of wine o' the berry to lips like a cloven peel's. 'Tis death if a king be saddened, right, so let a fool laugh lies, but wine when a king is gladdened, and a woman's waist and her eyes. He hath shattered the loom of the weaver, and left but a leaf that flits. He hath seized heaven's gold, and a fever of mist and of frost is its. He hath tippled the buxom beauty, and gotten her hug and her kiss, the wide world's royal booty, to pile at her feet for this. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Sorrow by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. O dark-eyed spirit of the marble brow, whose look is silence, and whose touch is night, who walkest lonely through the world, O thou, who sittest lonely with life's blown-out light, who in the hollow hours of night's noon criest like some lost child, whose anguished fevered eyeballs seek the moon to cool their pulses wild. Thou who dost bend to kiss joy's sister cheek, turning its rose to alabaster, yea, thou who art terrible and mad and meek, why in my heart art thou enshrined today? Sorrow, oh say, oh say. Now spring is here, and all the world is white. I will go forth and wear the forest robes, itself in green, and every hill and height crown its fair head with blossoms, spirit globes, of hyacinth and crocus dashed with dew. I will forget my grief, and thee, O sorrow, gazing at the blue, beneath a last year's leaf, of some brief violet the south wind woos, or bluet whence the west wind raked the snow, the baby eyes of love, the darling hues of happiness that thou canst never know, mother of pain and woe. On some hoar upland hoar with clustered thorns, hard by a river's windy white of waves, I shall sit down with spring, whose eyes are morns, of light whose cheeks the rose of health enslaves, and so forget thee, braiding in spring's hair the snowdrop tipped with green, the cool-eyed primrose, and the trillium fair, and moony celandine, contented so to lie within her arms, forgetting all the sere and sad and wan, remembering love alone, who o'er earth's storms, high on the mountains of perpetual dawn, leads the glad hours on. Or in the peace that follows storm, when even within the west stands dreaming, lone and far, clad on with green and silver, and the heaven is brightly brooched with one gold-glittering star. I will lie down beside a mountain lake, round which the tall pines sigh, and breathing musk of rain from boughs that shake, storm balsam blowing by, make friends of dream and contemplation high, and music listening to the mocking bird, who through the hush sends its melodious cry, and so forget awhile that other word, that all loved things must die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Night by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Matthew D. Robinson. Out of the east, as from an unknown shore, thou comest with thy children in thine arms, slumber and dream, whom mortals so adore, their flowing raiment sculptured to their charms. Soft on thy breast thy lovely children rest, laid like two roses in one balmy nest. Silent thou comest, swiftly too and slow. There is no other presence like to thine, when thou approachest with thy babes divine, thy shadowy face above them bending low, blowing the ringlets from their brows of snow. Oft have I taken sleep from thy dark arms, and fondled her fair head with poppies wreathed within my bosom's depths, until its storms with her were hushed, and I but faintly breathed. And then her sister dream with frolic art arose from rest, and in my sleeping heart blew bubbles of dreams where elfin worlds were lost, worlds where my stranger soul looked down at me, or walked with spirits by a rainbowed sea, or smiled an unfamiliar shape of frost, floating on gales of breathless melody. Day comes to us in garish glory garbed, but thou bringest to the tired heart rest and sweet silence, wherein are absorbed all the vain tumults of the mind and mart. Whether thou comest with hands full of stars, or clothed in storm and cloud, the lightning bars rolling the thunder like a mighty dress, God moves with thee. We seem to hear his feet, wind-like, along the floors of heaven beat, to see his face revealed in awfulness through thee, O night, to ban us or to bless. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Haunted House by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Cornel, Nemes, Reno, Nevada. The shadows sit and stand about its door like uninvited guests and poor. And all the long, hot summer day the ceaseless locust dins its round delay in one old sycamore. The squirrel leaves upon its rotting roof its wandering tracks in empty holes, and in its clapboard cracks the spider waves a windy woof, and cells of clay the mud wasp packs, The she-fox whelps upon its floor, and o'er its sun-warped door the outlet roosts, and where the mouses run the freckled snakes basks in the sun. The children of what father sleep beneath those melancholy pines? The slow slugs slime their headstones there where creep the doddered poison vines. The orchard near the meadow deep lifts up decrepit arms. Black lichened in the withering hip, no sap swells up to make it leap and shout against spring's storms. No blossom lulls its age asleep. The winds bring sad alarms. Big bell-round pears and pippins russet red, no maiden gutters now. The worm-bored trunks weep tears of gum instead, oozing from each old bough. The woodlands around it are solitary and folded like gaunt hands. The sunlight is sad and the moonlight is dreary. The hum of the country is lonesome and weary, and the bees go by in bands to gladder and lovelier lands. The grasses are rotting in walk and in bower, the loneliness dank and rank as a chamber where lies for a lonely hour an old man's corpse with many a flower. Is hushed and blank, and even the birds have passed it by, gone with their songs to a happier sky and bank. In its desolate halls are lying gold, blood red, and brown drifted leaves of autumn dying, and the winds above them sighing turn them round and round, make a ghostly sound as footsteps falling, flying, ghostly footsteps faintly flying through the haunted house. Gazing down in her white shroud, woven of windy cloud, comes at night the phantom moon, comes and all the shadows soon, crowding chambers of the house, haunting whispering rooms arouse, shadows, ghosts, her rays lead on, till beneath the cloud like a ghost she's gone, in her gusty shroud, o'er the haunted house. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Autumn by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. I oft have met her, slowly wandering beside a leafy stream, her locks blown wild, her cheeks a hectic flush, more fair than spring, as if on her the scarlet copse had smiled. Or I have seen her sitting, dark and tall, her gentle eyes with foolish weeping dim, beneath a twisted oak, from whose red leaves she wound great drowsy wreaths and let them fall. The west wind in her hair, that made it swim far out behind, brown as the rustling sheaves. Or in the hill lands I have often seen the marvel of her passage, glimpses faint of glimmering woods that glance the hills between, like Indian faces, fierce with forest paint. Or I have met her twixt two beechen hills, within a dingled valley near a fall, held in her nut-brown hand one cardinal flower, or waiting dimly where the leaf-dammed rills went babbling through the wild wood's arrased hall, where burned the beech and maples glared their power. Or I have met her by a ruined mill, where trailed the crimson creeper, serpentine on fallen leaves that stirred and rustled, chill, and watched her swinging in the wild grapevine, while beauty, sad among the vales and mountains, more sad than death, or all that death can teach, dreamed of decay and stretched appealing arms, where splashed the murmur of the forest's fountains. With all her loveliness did she beseech, and all the sorrow of her wildwood charms. Once only, in a hollow girt with trees, a dream amid wild asters filled with rain, I glimpsed her cheeks, red berried by the breeze, in her dark eyes the night's sidereal stain. And once upon an orchard's tangled path, where all the goldenrod had turned to brown, where russets rolled and leaves lay sweet of breath, I did behold her mid her aftermath of blossoms standing, in her gypsy gown, within her gaze the dreams of life and death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Along the Ohio by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Athwart a sky of brass, long welts of gold, a river of flame the wide Ohio lies. Beneath the sunset billowing manifold, the dark blue hilltops rise. And westering dips the crescent of the moon through great cloud feathers, flushed with rosy ray, that close around the crystal of her loon, the redbird wings of day. A little skiff slips o'er the burnished stream. A wake of flame, that broadens far behind, follows in ripples, and the paddles gleam against the evening wind. Was it the boat, the solitude, the hush, that with dead Indians peopled all the glooms? That made each bank, meseemed, and every bush start into eagle plumes? That made meseem to hear the breaking brush, and as the stag's great antlers swelled in view, to hear the arrow twang from cane and rush that dipped to the canoe? To see the glimmering wigwams by the waves, and wildly clad round the campfire's glow, the Shawnee chieftains with their painted braves, each with his battle bow. But now the vision like the sunset fades. The clouds of ribbed gold have oozed their light, and from the west, like sombre sachem shades, gallop the shades of night. The broad Ohio glitters to the stars, and many murmurs wander through its woods. Is it the mourning of dead warriors for their lost solitudes? The moon is set, but like another moon the crescent of the river shimmers there, unchanged as when the eyes of Daniel Boone beheld its flowing fair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old Inn by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by William Mosqueda. Red winding from the sleepy town, one takes the lone forgotten lane straight through the hills. A brush bird brown bubbles in the thorn flowers sweet with rain, where breezes bend the gleaming grain and cautious drip of higher leaves, the lower dips that drip again. Above the tangled trees it heaves, its gables and its haunted eaves. One creeper gnarled and blossomless, o'er forest all its eastern wall, the sighing cedars rake and press, dark boughs along the panes they sprawl, while where the sun beats drone and drawl, the mud wasps and one bushy bee, gold dusty hurls along the hall, to crowd into a crack. To me the shadows seem too scared to flee. Of ragged chimneys martins make huge pipes of music, twittering. Here they build and brood. My footfalls wake, strange stealing echoes, till I fear I'll see my pale self drawing near, my phantom self as in a glass, or one men murdered buried, where, dim in grey stealthier glimmer pass, with lips that seem to moan, alas. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Millwater by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by William Mosqueda. The water flag and wild cane grow round banks wherein the sunbeams sow ephemeral gold when, on its shores, the wind sighs through the sycamores. In one green angle just in reach, between a willow tree and a beech, moss-grown and leaky lies a boat the thick-grown lilies keep afloat. And through its waters half awake, slow swims the spotted water snake, and near its edge like some gray streak stands gaunt the still fly up the creek. Between the lily pads and blooms the water spirits set their looms, and weave lace-like light that dims the glimmering leaves of underlimbs. Each lily is the hiding place of some dim wood thing's elvish face that watches you with gold-green eyes where bubbles of its breathing rise. I fancy when the waxing moon leans through the trees in the dreams of June, and when the black bat slants its wing, and lonelier the green frogs sing. I fancy when the whirlpool in some old tree sings wildly shrill, with glowworm eyes that dot the dark, each holding high a firefly spark. To torch its way the wood imps come, and some float rocking here, and some unmoor the lily leaves and oar around the old boat by the shore. They climb through oozy weeds and moss, they swarm its rotting sides and toss their firefly torches o'er its edge, or hang them in the tangled sedge. The boat is loosed, the moon is pale, around the dam they slowly sail, upon its bow to pilot it, a jack-o'-lantern flame doth sit. Yes, I have seen it all in dreams, naught is forgotten, naught it seems, the strangled face, the matted hair, drowned of the woman trailing there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Dream by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by William Mosqueda. Thus did I dream. It seemed the afternoon of some deep tropic day, and yet the moon hung, round and bright with golden alchemy, high in a heaven sapphire as the sea. Long, longy lengths of perishable cloud templed the west o'er rolling forest bowed, clouds raining colors, gold and violet, that, opening, seemed from inner worlds to let down hints of Parian beauty and lost charms, of old romance, peopled with fairy forms. And all about me fruited orchards grew, pear, quince, and peach, and plums of dusty blue, rose apricots, and apples streaked with fire, kissed into ripeness by some sun's desire, and big with juice. And on far fading hills down which it seemed 100 torrent rills flashed silent silver, vines and vines and vines terraced the world with vintage cooling wines, pleasant and fragrant as the heart of June, their delicate tang drawn from the wine-white moon. And from the clouds o'er this sweet world there dripped an odorous music, strange and feverishly lipped, that swung and swooned and panted as with sighs, investing at each throb the air with eyes and forms of sensuous spirits limpid white, clad on with raiment as of starry night, fair frail embodiments of melody, from out whose hearts of crystal one could see the music stream like light through delicate hands hollowing a lamp. And as on sounding sands the ocean murmur haunts the rosy shells, within whose convolution beauty dwells, my soul became a harp of vibrant love, re-echoing all the harmony above. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Spring Twilight by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Mira Eagle. The sun set late, and left along the west a furious ruby, o'er which billowing snows of clouds unrolled, each cloud a mighty breast blooming with almond rose. The sun set late, and wafts of wind beat down and cuffed the blossoms from the blossoming quince, scattered the petals on the poppy's crown, and made the clover wince. By dusking forests through whose fretful boughs and flying fragments shot the evening's flame, adown the tangled lane the quiet cows with dreamy tinklings came. The sun set late, but scarcely had he gone when o'er the moon gold-litten crescent there, bright Vesper, polished as a precious stone, burned in fair deeps of air. As from the faint stars the glory waned and waned, the crickets made the old-time garden shrill. Beyond the luminous pasture lands complained the first far whippoorwill. End poem. This recording is public domain.
A Sleet-Storm in May by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Matthew D. Robinson. On southern wind shot through with amber light, breathing soft balm and clothed in cloudy white, the lily-fingered spring came o'er the hills, waking the crocus and the daffodils. O'er the cold earth she breathed a tender sigh. The maples sang and flung their banners high, their crimson-tasseled pennons, and the elm bound his dark brows with a green-crested helm. Beneath the musky rot of last year's leaves, under the forest's myriad naked eaves, life woke and rose in gold and green and blue, robed in the starlight of the twinkling dew. With timid tread adown the barren wood spring held her way, when lo, before her stood white-mantled winter nodding his white head. Stormy his brow and stormily he said, "The god of terror and the king of storm, must I remind thee how my iron arm raised rebel standards mid these conquered bowers, turning their green to crimson? Thou with flowers, thou wouldst supplant me, nay, usurp my throne, audacious one." And at her breast he tossed a glittering spear of ice and piercing frost, and struck her down dead on the unfeeling mold. The fragile blossoms gathered in the fold of her young bosom fell in desolate rows about her beauty, and like fragrant snows covered her lovely hands and beautiful feet, or on her lips lay like last kisses sweet that died there, lilacs musky of the May, and bluer violets and snowdrops lay entombed in crystal, icy faint and fair, like teardrops scattered through her heavenly hair. Alas, sad heart, break not beneath the pain. Time changeth all, the beautiful wakes again. We should not question such. A higher power knows best what bud is ripest or what flower silently plucks it at the fittest hour. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Heart o' Spring by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. Whiten, O clouds of lawn, lily-like clouds that whiten above, now like a dove, and now like a swan, but never, oh never, pass on, never as white as the throat of my love. Blue-black night on the mountain peaks, oh not so black as the locks, O my love. Stars that shine through the evening's streaks, over the torrent that flashes and breaks, brighter the eyes of my love, my love. Moon in a cloud as white as snow, mist in the vale where the rivulet bounds, dropping from ledge to ledge below, turning to gold in the sunset's glow. Softer and sweeter her footsteps sound o'er May winds in the blossoming trees. Oh, not so sweet as her laugh that rings, song of wild birds on the morning breeze, birds and brooks and murmur o' bees. Sweeter her voice when she laughs or sings. The rose of my heart is she, my dawn, my star o' the east, my moon above. My soul takes ship for the Avalon of her heart of hearts, and shall sail on till it anchors safe in its haven of love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Broken Rainbow on the Skies of May by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by rumpledpoetry. A broken rainbow on the skies of May, touching the dripping roses and low clouds, and in wet clouds like scattered jewels lost, so in the sorrow of her soul, the ghost of one great love, of iridescent ray spanning the roses gray of memory against the tumult of life's rushing crowds. A broken rainbow on the skies of May, a flashing hummingbird among the flowers' deep-colored blooms, its slender tongue and bill sucking the calyxed and the honeyed myrrhs, till sick of sweets to other flowers it whirs. Such was his love that won her heart's full bowers, to yield to him their all, their sweets in showers, the flower from which he drank his body's fill, a flashing hummingbird among the flowers. A moon, moth-white, that through far mists like fleece moves amber-girt into a bulk of black, and lost to sight rims all the black with froth. A love that swept its moon, like some great moth, across the heaven of her soul's young peace, and smoothly passing in the clouds did cease of time, through which its burning light comes back, a moon, moth-white, that moves through mist like fleece. A bolt of living thunder, downward hurled, momental blazing from the piled-up storm that etches out the mountains and the ocean, the towering rocks, then blots the sight's commotion. Love, love that swiftly coming bared the world, the deeps of life round which fate's clouds are curled, and ceasing left all night in black alarm. A bolt of living thunder, downward hurled. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Orgy by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org. On nights like this, when bayou and lagoon swoon in the moonlight's mystic radiance, I seem to walk like one deep in a trance, with old world myths born of the mist and moon. Lascivious eyes and mouths of sensual rose smile into mine, and breasts of luring light, and tresses streaming golden to the night, persuade me onward where the forest glows. And then it seems along the haunted hills there falls a flutter as of beautiful feet, as if tempestuous troops of maenads meet to drain deep bowls and shout and have their wills. And then I feel her limbs will be revealed, like some great snow-white moth among the trees. Her vampire beauty, waiting there to seize and drag me downward where my doom is sealed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Farmstead by Madison Cawein, recorded for LibriVox.org by Cornel Nemes in Reno, Nevada. Yes, I love the farmstead. There in the spring the lilacs blew plenteous perfume everywhere. There in the summer gladioles drew parallels of scarlet glare, and the moon-hued primrose cool, satin soft and redolent, honeysuckles beautiful, filling all the air with scent, roses red or white as wool, roses glorious and lush, rich in tender tinted dyes, like the gay tempestuous rush of unnumbered butterflies clustering o'er each bending bush. Here japonica and box and the wayward violets, clumps of star-enameled phlox, and the myriad flowery jets of the twilight 4 o'clocks. Ah, the beauty of the place, when the June made one great rose, full of musk and mellow grace, in the garden's humming close of her comely mother face, bubble like the hollyhocks budded, burst, and flaunted wide gypsy beauty from their stalks, morning glories, bubble-dyed, swung in honey-hearted flocks, tawny tiger lilies flung, doublets lashed with crimson on, graceful slave girls fair and young, like Circassians in the sun, alabaster lilies swung. Ah, the droning of the bee in his dusty pantaloons, tumbling in the fleur-de-lis, in the drowsy afternoons, dreaming in the pink sweet pea. The moaning wildwood dove, with its throat of amethyst rippled like a shining cove, which a wing to pearl had kissed, moaning, moaning of its love, and the insects gossip thin, from the summer hotness hid in lone, leafy deeps of green. Then at eve the katydid with its hard, unvaried din, often from the whispering hills, borne from out the golden dusk, gold with gold of daffodils, thrilled into the garden's musk the wild wail of whippoorwills. From the purple tangled trees, like the white, full heart of night, solemn with majestic peace, swam the big moon, veined with light, like some gorgeous golden fleece. She was there with me, and who in the magic of the hour had not sworn that they could view, beating on each blade and flower, moony blisters of the dew? And each fairy of our home, firefly, its taper lit in the honey-scented gloam, dashing down the dusk with it like an instant flaming foam. And we heard the calling, calling of the brown owl in the brake, where the trumpet vine hung, crawling down the ledge into the lake, heard the sighing streamlet falling. Then we wandered to the creek where the water lilies, growing thick as stars, lay white and weak, or against the brooklet's flowing stooped and bathed a bashful cheek, and the moonlight, rippling golden, fell in virgin aureoles on their bosoms half unfolden, where it seemed the fairies' souls
dreamed as perfume I'm beholden, lying sleeping, pearly tinted, baby cribbed with each bud, while the night wind, pinewood scented, swooning over field and flood, rocked them on the waters dented. Then the low, melodious bell of a sleeping heifer tinkled in some berry-briered dell, as her satin dewlap wrinkled with the cud that made it swell. And returning home, we heard in a beech tree at the gate some brown, dream-behaunted bird singing of its absent mate, of the mate that never heard. And you see, now I am grey. Why within the old place, with such memories I stay, fancy out her absent face long since passed away. She was mine, yes, still is mine, and my frosty memory reels about her, as with wine warmed into young eyes that see all the past that was divine. Yes, I loved her, and have grown melancholy in that love, and the memory alone of her loveliness, whereof she did sanctify each stone. And where her flowers swing, there she walks, as if a bee fanned them with its airy wing. Down her garden, shadowy in the hush, the evenings bring. The end of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Boy Columbus by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. And he had mused on lands each bird that winged from realms of Valerina, o'er seas of the enchanted sword, in romance sang him till he heard far foam on islands of Alcina. For rich Levant and old Castile let other seamen freight their galleys, with Polo, he, and Mandeville, through stranger seas a dreamy keel sailed into wonder-peopled valleys, far continents of flower and fruit, of everlasting spring, where fountains, mid flowers with human faces, shoot, where races dwell, both man and brute, in cities under golden mountains, where cataracts their thunders hurl from heights the tempest has at mercy, vast peaks that touch the moon and whirl wild torrents down of gold and pearl, and forests strange as those of Circe. Let repered love loot in the shade of royal gardens to the palace, and court that haunt the balustrade of terraces, and still parade their vanity and guile and malice. Him something calls diviner yet than love, more mighty than a lover, heroic truth that will not let deed lag, a purpose westward set, and eyes far-seeing to discover. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
North Beach, Florida. by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org. Surge upon surge, the miles of surf uncurl volutes of murmur, and the far shore foams, the thundering billows, boiling into pearl, the sea wind clouds and combs. Wave upon wave, as when the Nereids pour, with streaming tresses, landward, when the arms of Tritons reach them, racing towards the shore, bursts on the beach that storms. O thou primeval solitude, that rolled out of creation when the world was young, that shall roll on when man is not, and old the ages yet unsung. Time shall not flaw thy music. Thou hast heard God's Spirit on thy waters, and no night annuls the memory of that one word which blossomed into light. With such impression as upon thy face the soaring seagulls make, man comes and came, and countless myriads, race on warring race, have found thee thus the same. Thy part is to destroy, and still remain immutable midst mutability, the symbol of all change, that clothes again mystery in mystery. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Storm by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Thor is out on the hills, the frown of his fierce brow showing, his breath through his red beard blowing, with rain through his beard that it fills. The forests are taken, the mightiest oaks are twisted and shaken as by chariot spokes, where mountains awaken to the hoofs of his yokes, reined sheer with the strength of his arm. Ride forth, O spirit of storm! What hope for the sparrow, or nest of the bird? Where fords were once narrow, what hope for the herd? When arrow on arrow he empties the third of his quiver against their alarm. Descend, O spirit of storm! You may measure the might that he brings by the welkin that echoes his fellows, by the fork of the lightning that yellows the darkness, the hammer he swings. The cattle are scattered, and lo from the shore, the roses are shattered that grew at the door. The swallows look tattered and twitter and soar, made glad with the force of his form. Rejoice, O spirit of storm! On levels that sunder the roar of the main, he plows with the thunder and sows with the rain. No sunbeam shall blunder through black till the plain is planted with storm as a farm. Sweep on, O spirit of storm! His path is the abysm, which heaps the wild wind behind him, and hovers a whirlwind before, that uncovers the hurricane lair where he sleeps, at night through the wrestle of winds that contend to guard the good vessel from rocks that would rend. Like a star let it nestle, the light to defend the seaman and his from all harm. From thee, O spirit of storm! End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Jellicle Spur of the Cumberlands by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. 2. You remember how the mist, when we climbed to Devil's Den, pearl white in the mountain glen, and above us amethyst, throbbed and circled? Then away through the wild woods opposite, torn and scattered, morning lit, vanished into dewy gray. Vague as in romance we saw from the fog one riven trunk, talon-like with branches shrunk, thrust a monster dragon claw. And we climbed for hours through the dawn-dripping jellicos to a wooded rock, whence those undulating leagues of blue summits, mountain chains, that lie dark with forest bar on bar, ranged their wild, irregular purple peaks beneath a sky, ocean azure. Range on range billowed their enormous spines, where the rocks and priestly pines sat eternal, without change. We were sons of nature then. She had taken us to her, drawn us, bound with briar and burr, closer her than other men. Intimates of all her moods, from her bloom-anointed looks, wisdom of no man-made books, learned we in those solitudes. How the seed contained the flower, how the acorn held the oak, how within the vine awoke the wild impulse still to tower. How in fantasy or mirth, springing when she summoned there, sponge-like fungi everywhere bulged, exuded from the earth. Coral vegetable things that the underworld exhaled, bulbous, fluted, ribbed, and scaled, many-colored and in rings. Like the Indian pipe that grew pink and white in loamy cracks, flowers of a natural wax, she had turned her fancy to. On that laureled precipice where the chestnuts dropped their burrs, warm with balsam of the firs, first we felt her mother kiss. Full of heaven and the wind, while the forests, wood on wood, murmured like a multitude, giving praise where none hath sinned. Freedom met us there. We saw freedom giving audience. In her face the eloquence lightning-like of love and law. Round her on majestic hips lounged the giant mountains, where streaming cataracts tossed their hair, God and thunder on their lips. Oft an eagle or a hawk or a scavenger we knew, winged above us through the blue by its shadow on the rock. Or a cloud of templed white moved a lazy berg of pearl through the sky's pacific swirl, shot with cool cerulean light. So we dreamed an hour upon that high rock the lichens mossed, while around us glimmering tossed golden mintings of the sun. Then arose, and a ravine which a torrent once had worn made our roadway to the corn in the valley deep and green. And the farmhouse with its bees, where old-fashioned flowers spun gay rag carpets in the sun, gray among the apple trees. Here we watched the evening fall, or Wolf Mountain sunset made, huge a rhododendron rayed, round the sun's cloud-calyxed ball. Then through scents of herb and soil to the mining camp we turned, in the twinkling dusk discerned with its whitewashed homes of toil. Ah, those nights! We wandered forth on some haunted mountain path, when the moon rose late, and wrath the large stars sowed south and north, splashed with gold and purple skies, and the milky zodiac rolled athwart the belted black, seemed a path to paradise. And we walked or tarried till in the valley land beneath, like the vapor of a breath breathed in frost, arose the still architecture of the mist. And the moon dawn's necromance touched the mist and made it glance, terraced pearl and amethyst. Then around us, sharp and brusque, night's shrill insect strident strung fairy viols that buzzed and sung pixie music of the dusk. And we seemed to hear soft sighs and hushed steps of ghostly things, fluttered feet and rustled wings all around us. Fireflies gleaming in the tangled glade seemed the eyes of warriors stealing under watching stars to some phantom ambuscade. To the teepees there that gloomed wigwams of the mist that slept by the woodland side, whence crept shadowy Shawnees moonbeam plumed. When the moon rose like a cup, lay the valley brimming shine of mesmeric mist like wine, to the sky's dim face held up. As she rose from out the mines of the nacreous darkness, night met her, clad in dewy light, mid pine mountains' sachem pines. As through fragmentary fleece of the clouds her circle broke, o'er seemed about us woke myths of Italy and Greece. As an orb of sparry quartz her serene circumference grew. Home we turned, and all night through slept the sleep of happy hearts. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Whippoorwill by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Above lone woodland ways that led to dells the stealthy twilight tread. The west was hot geranium red, and still along old lanes the locusts sow. With clustered pearls the Maytimes blow. Deep in the crimson afterglow we heard the homeward cattle low, and then far off like some far woe the whippoorwill, the whippoorwill. Beneath the idle beechen boughs we heard the slow bells of the cows come softly jangling towards the house, and still, beyond the light that would not die, out of the scarlet haunted sky, beyond the evening star's white eye of glittering chalcedony, drained out of dusk the plaintive cry of whippoorwill, of whippoorwill. And in the city oft, when swims the pale moon o'er the smoke that dims its disk, I dream of wildwood limbs, and still, I seem to hear where shadows grope midst ferns and flowers that dewdrops rope, lost in faint deeps of heliotrope, above the clover sweetened slope, retreat despairing past all hope. The whippoorwill, the whippoorwill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In the Wildwood by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. I lie where silence sleeps, and twilight dreams and sighs, where all heaven's azure peeps blue from one wildflower's eyes, where in reflecting deeps a world inverted lies of dimmer woods and skies, divining God from things humble as weed and bee, from songs the wild bird sings guessing at poetry, and from each flower that swings, each star familiar tree, learning philosophy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Hollow of the Hills by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. How oft the swallow darted above its deeps of blue, where leaves close clung or parted to let the sunlight through, where roses honey-hearted hung full of living dew. How oft from out the heaven upon me blew the balm of soft winds summer driven from continents of calm, with rustlings as of riven, sea-sounding pine and palm. Oft from its leafy cover I watched the redbird slip, and marked like some rude lover the bee with robber lip bend down the snowy clover or make the wild rose dip. Still darts the soaring swallow above it, and the rose still blooms within its hollow, where still the runnel flows, the brook that I shall follow no more, that seaward goes. There still the white moon shineth at night through rifted trees, upon the stream that twineth through blooms that no one sees, and on, as I divineth my soul that sighs for these. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Beneath the Beeches by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. I long, oh long to lie 'neath beechen branches twisted, green 'twixt the summer sky, the woodland shadows nigh, like dryads sunbeam wristed, the livelong day to dream beside a wildwood stream. I long, oh long to hear the claustral forest breathing sounds soothing to the ear, to see the wild vine near its scarlet blooms unsheathing, the livelong day to cross slow o'er the nut-strewn moss. I long, oh long to see the nesting redbird singing glad on the wood rose tree, to watch the breezy bee half in the wildflower swinging, God's livelong day to pass deep in cool forest grass. O soul, so builded in with mart and booth and steeple, brick alleyways of sin, what hope for you to win ways free of pelf and people, ways of the leaf and root, and soft Macedonian flute, End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bridle-Path by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Cornel Nemes in Reno, Nevada. Through meadows of the ironweeds whose purple blooms hang, sleeping the morning dew in twinkling beads, the thin path twists and, winding, leads through woodland hollows, dripping, down to a creek of rocks and reeds, onto a lily dam that feeds a mill, whose wheel through willow braids wings, the white water whipping. It wends through meads of mint and brush, where silvery seeds drift drowsy or swoon along the heatful hush, and where the bobwhite in the bush, the elder, blooming frowsy, keeps calling clear. Then through a crush of crowded saplings low and lush, then by a pool of flag and rush with bright rose, petaled blousy. Thence o'er the ragweed fallow lot, whose low rail fence encumbers the dense-packed berries ripening hot, where in the heaven one far spot of grey the grey hawk slumbers, then through the greenwood where the rot of leaves and loam smells cool, and, shut with dotting dark, the touch-me-not swings curling horns in numbers. It winds round the rocks that bulge and lie deep in damp ferns and mosses, each like a giant on his thigh watching some forest quarry die, and thence it frailly crosses a bramble bridge, whence, whirring high, a partridge startles toward the sky a jarring light, where bubbling by the brook its diamonds tosses. And here the cohosh swings its snow, gowned from the forest springing. There gold the sorrel blossoms blow, here vari-colored toadstools sow or swell the soil, and swinging the trumpet vine hangs red and low near boughs, on which the beech burrs glow. The woodland wind sways to and fro o'er waters wildly ringing. It leads us deep into the cane through spice bush belts, where tinkle one stray bell sounds, and then again, lost in some lone and leafy lane, where smooth the clay roots wrinkle, a cloud looms up, a greyish stain against the blue, and wet with rain the wind blows, denting down the grain and the leaves. The first drops sprinkle. The dust is drilled with the raindrops. One, then two quick gleams, then thunder, and scurrying with dust, we run into a whiff of hay and sun, of cribs and barns, and under low martin-builded eaves, where dun the sparrows shelter, watch the spun-blue rain sweep down, that seems to stun the world with wind and wonder. A crushing wedge of stormy light, vibrating, blinds and dashes a monster elm to splinters white, then roaring rain,
Then, blinding bright, a bolt again that crushes. The storm is over. Left and right the clouds break, and with green delight, fresh rain scents blow from wood and height, where each blade drips and flashes. A ghostly gold burns slowly through the chasmed clouds, and blended with rainy rose and rainy blue, the heavens, pearled with many a hue, die like a dolphin splendid, high buoyed in wrack. Now one or two slight stars peep out, the pirate clue to night's rich hoard. In dusk and dew, here is our pathway ended. The end of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Old Farm by Madison Cawein, recorded for LibriVox.org by Cornel Nemes in Reno, Nevada. Dormered and veranded, cool, locust-girdled on the hill, stained with weather wear. At Yule and midsummer every sill thresholding the beautiful. Still I see it standing there, brown above the woodland deep, wrapped in lights of lavender, and slow shadows rocked asleep by the warm wind everywhere. I remember how the spring, liberal lapped, bewildered its acred orchards, murmuring with the blossoms' budded bits, where the wood thrush came to sing. Barefoot spring, at first who trod, like a beggar maid, adown the wet woodland where the god, with the bright sun for a crown and the firmament for a rod, met her, clothed her, wedded her, her Cophetua, when lo, all the hill, one breathing blur, burst in blossom, gleam and glow, peach and pearl and lavender. Sickle, black heart, palpitant, rain their bleaching strays, and white snow the damson bent aslant. Rainbow tree and Romanite seemed beneath deep drifts to bend, and it stood there, brown and grey, in the bee-boom and the bloom, in the shadow and the ray, in the passion and perfume, grave as age among the gay. Sweet with laughter roamed the clear boyish voices round its walls. Rare wild roses were the dear girlish faces in its halls. Music haunted all the year. Far before it meadows full of green pennyroyal sank. Clover dotted as with wool here and there, and now a bank of wild color, and the cool dark blue shadows undefined of the clouds rolled overhead. Clouds,
from which the summer wind blew with rain, and freshly shed dew upon the flower kind, where, through mint and gypsy lily, runs the rocky brook away, musical among the hilly solitudes, its flashing spray sunbeam dashed, or shadow stilly buried in thick sassafras. Memory follows up the hill, still some cowbell's mellow brass, where the ruined watermill looms, half hid in cane and grass. Ah, the old farm! Is it set on the hilltop still, mid-musk of the meads, where violet deepens all the dreaming dusk, and the locust trees hang wet, while the sunset far and low on its westward windows dashes primrose or pomegranate glow, and above, in lilac splashes faint, first stars the heavens sow, sleeps it still among its roses, yellow roses, while the choir of the lonesome insects dozes, and the white moon filled with fire o'er its mossy roof reposes, sleeps it still among its roses? The end of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Summer by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. Thou sit'st among the sunny silences of terraced hills and woodland galleries, thou utterance of all calm melodies, thou lutenist of earth's most fecund lute, where no false note intrudes, to mar the silent music, branch and root, playing the fields ripe, orchards, and deep woods, to song similitudes of flower and seed and fruit. Oft have I felt thee in some sensuous air, bewitch the wide wheat acres everywhere, to imitated gold of thy rich hair, the peach by thy red lips' delicious trouble, blown into gradual dyes, of crimson have I seen, have watched thee double, with interluded music of thine eyes, the grapes' rotundities, bubble by purple bubble, deliberate uttered into life intense, out of thy song's melodious eloquence. Beauty evolves its just preeminence, the lily from some pensive smitten chord, drawing significance of purity, a visible hush stands, starred, with splendor from thy passionate utterance. The rose tells its romance in blushing word on word. As star by star day harps in evening, the inspiration of all things that sing is in thy hands, and from their touch takes wing. All brooks, all birds, whom song can never sate, even the wind and rain, and frogs and insects singing soon and late. Thy sympathies inspire thy heart's refrain, whose sounds invigorate with rest life's weary brain. And as the night, like some mysterious rune, its beauty makes emphatic with the moon, thou lutest us no immaterial tune, but where dim whispers haunt the cane and corn, be thy still strain made strong, earth's awful avatar, in whom is born thy own deep music, labors all night long, with growth assuring morn, assumes like onward song. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Gray Day by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Long volleys of wind and of rain, and the rain on the drizzled pane, and the day ends chill and murk. But on yesterday's eve, I trow, the new moon's thorn-thin bow stabbed rosy through the gold and through the glow, like a rich barbaric dirk. The throats of the snapdragons, cool-colored with gold like the dawns that come with spring o'er the hills, are filled with the sweet rain fine, of starry scintillant shine, a fairy vat of thin wine that the rain for the elfins fills. Dabbled the poppies shrink, and the coxcomb and the pink, and the candy tuft's damp crown droops, dribbled, low bowed in the wet, and rows of the mignonette little musk sacks open set, which the weight o' the dew drags down, stretched taut twixt the blades of grass, a gossamer fibered glass, that the garden spider spun, the web where the round rain clings in the sag o' its middle swings, a hammock for elfin things, when the stars succeed the sun. And mark, where the pale gourd grows as high as the climbing rose, how the tiger moth is pressed to that wide leaf's underside, and I know where the red wasps hide, and the brown bees that defied the first strong gusts, distressed. Yet I feel that the gray will blow aside for an afterglow, and the wind on a sudden toss drenched boughs, a pattering shower athwart the red dusk in a glower, big drops heard hard on each flower, the grass and the flowering moss. And then for a minute, may be, a pearl, hollow-worn of the sea, a glimmer of moon will smile, and a star rinsed clean through the dusk, and a freshness of moonlit musk o'er the showery lawns blow brusque, as spice from an Indian isle. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Mood of the Earth by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. My heart is high as the day is clear, as the wind in the wood that blows. My heart is high with a mood that's cheer, and glows like a sun-blown rose. My heart is high, and up and away, like a bird in the sky's deep blue. My heart goes singing through the day, as glad as a bee in the dew. My heart is high, its beat is wild as the scent of the wood, the wild sweet wind with its pulse of heat, and its musk of blossom and bud. My heart is high, and it leads my feet where the sense of summer is full, to woods and waters where lovers meet, to hills where the creeks run cool. My heart is one with the heart, with the joy of the bee that comes and sucks in the flowers that dip apart for his dusty body that hums. My heart is glad as the glad red start, the flame-flecked bird, the spotted bird, whose lilt my soul has got by heart, fitting each note with a word. God's love, I tread the wind and air, I'm one with the hoiden wind, and the stars that swim in the blue, I swear, right soon in my hair I'll find. To live high up, a life of the mist, with the cloud things in white skies, with their limbs of pearl and of amethyst, that laugh cerulean eyes. To creep and to suck, like an elfin thing, in the aching heart of a rose, in the bluebell's ear to cling and swing, and whisper what no one knows. to live on wild honey as fresh, as thin as the rain that's left in a flower, and roll forth, golden from feet to chin, in the pollen's Danae shower. Or free, bird-hearted, bend back the throat, with a vigorous look at the blue, and launch from my soul one wild true note, is the thing that my heart would do. God's life, the blood of the earth is mine, and the mood of the earth I'll take, and brim my soul with her wonderful wine, and sing till my heart doth break. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Nooning by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Weak winds that make the waters wink, white clouds that sail from lands of fable to white utopias, vague that brink sky gulfs of blue unfathomable. Their rolling shadows drifting o'er hills of forest, lifting wild peaks of purple range that loom and sink. Warm knolls whereon the summer dreams, and droning dells where all her brightness lies, lulled with hymns of mountain streams, far roaming falls of windy whiteness, where from the glooming hollow, with cawing crows that follow, the hunted hawk wings wearily and screams. Dry buzzing heat and drought that shrills with one harsh locust's lonesome whirring, no voice amid the answering hills recedes in echoes far recurring, as when with twilight wimpled, the morning rosy dimpled, from dewy tops called o'er responding rills. Wan with sweet summer hangs the deep hot heaven with the high sun hearted, a great wide bluebell bloom asleep with golden pistilled petals parted. So lone, one would not startle, if from yon wood should dartle some wildwood dream, some myth the wild woods keep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Log Bridge by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by phone. Last month, where the old log bridge is laid o'er the woodland creek, in the belts o' the shade, to the right and left, pink-packed, was made a gloaming glory of scented tangle, by the bramble roses there, that wade, high-heaped from the banks, with many a braid, that, wilting, powdered the ruts and swayed, to the waters beneath, loose loops of spangle, where the breeze that blew and the beam that rayed were murmurous soft with the bees a-wrangle. This month, 'tis August, the lane that leads to the bramble bridge runs waste with weeds, that bloom bright saffron, or satin seeds of thistle fleas blow at you, hazy. Starry the lane with the thousand breeds of the yellow daisy, and bud-like beads of marigold eyes, around which speeds the butterfly, sumptuous with mottle and lazy, whereunder the pewee picks and pleads on the sumac's tassel that dips to the daisy. All golden the spot in the noon's gold shine, where the yellow bird sits with eyes like wine, and swings and whistles, where line on line, in coils of warmth, the sunbeams nestle, where cool by the pool, where the crawfish fine as a shadow's shadow darts dim to mine, the wet creek clay with their peevish whine, come mason hornets, and roll and wrestle with balls of clay they carry, and twine in hollow nests on the joist o' the trestle. where the horseman shoots through the grasses, high on the root-thick rivage that roofs a dry, grey knob that bristles with pink, the sigh of crickets is heard, and the leaves' deep bosoms are pierced at dusk with the bird's quick cry, a passing bird that twitters by, and the frog's grave antiphons rise and die. And here to drink come the wild opossums, and here tonight will you and I linger and lean while the great moon blossoms. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Among the Knobs by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. There is a place embanked with brush 3 wooded knobs beyond, lost in a valley where the lush wild eglantine blows blonde, where light the dogwoods earliest their torches of white fires, and bewildered east and west the red haws build their spires. The wild crab apple's flowery spray blur through the pensive gloom, a fragrant pink, and by lone ways the close blackberries bloom. I love the spot. A shallow brook slips from the forest near a canebrake and a violet nook, its rustling depths so clear, the minnows glimmer where they glide above its rocky bed. A boyhood-haunted brook, not wide, that has its sparkling head among the rainy hills and drops by 5 low waterfalls, wild music of 100 stops between the forest's walls. Down to a water gate that hangs across the stream, a dull portcullis rude, whose wooden fangs the moss makes beautiful. The brass-bright dragonflies about its seeding grasses swim, the streaked wasps, worrying in and out, dart sleepily and slim. Here in the moon-gold moss that glows like pools of moonlight dies the pale anemone and blows the bluet blue as skies. And where in April tenderly the wild geranium made a thin peculiar fragrance, we, cool in pellucid's shade, found wild strawberries just a bud, wild berries tart and fresh, pale scarlet as a wood bird's blood, that May's low vines would mesh. Once from that hill a farmhouse mid deep orchards, cosy brown, in lilacs and old roses hid, with picket fence looked down. O'er ruins now the roses guard, the plum and seckel pear, and apricot rot on the sod, their wasted ripeness there. Again, when huckleberries blow their waxen bells, I'll tread that dear accustomed way, and go adown that orchard, led to that avoided spot, which seems the haunt of vanished springs, lost as the hills in drowsy dreams of visionary things. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Falls of the Ohio by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Chad Horner from Benidorm in the province of Alicante in eastern Spain on the Mediterranean coast. 6th of June 2019. The Falls of the Ohio. Here on this jutting headland, where the trees spread a dust carpet for the sun to cast and count his golden guineas on, we'll rest. Behold the Ohio Falls, see how it seethes, though hardly heard from this high, wooded point, yet how it still confuses tongue and ear with its subdued and low monotonous roar. Not as it did, however, when we stood and marked it from the spanning of the bridge, rushing beneath impetuous as a tameless herd, with manes of flying spray, between the pillars towering above. No more does it confound us and confuse. Its clamour here is softened to a sound, incessant and subdued, like that which haunts the groves of spring, when, like some dim surprise, a wind, precursor of the rain, rides down from a grey cloud and sets the leafy tongues cool gossiping of the approaching shower. There runs the dam, and where its dark line cuts the river's sheen, already you may see the ripples glancing to the summer sun, as if a host had couched 1,000 spears and tossed 1,000 plumes of fleecy foam in answer to the challenge of the falls, blown from his limestone battlements and cried from his wave-builded city's roaring walls. And there, you see, the waves like champions charge, crowding wild form on form. Their foam hoofs beat the ragged rocks that roll them on their way. Billowing they come, knight-like, to ringing lists, with shout on shout, tossing 1,000 plumes, 1,000 spears in sparkling tournament, lifting, opposing each, a silvery shield or shining pennon, now that sinks or soars, and many a glittering sword of twinkling foam, and many a helmet shattered in flakes of froth, that to the trumpeting wind hisses away, while o'er it all swell out the rush and roar of onset as of battlement borne afar. On, on they come, a beautiful mad troop, on, along the sandy banks that fling red pebbled freckled arms far out to stay their ruinous rush, the nightly strife of waves, warring and winding wild their watery horns. Look, where 1,000 oily eddies whirl, and turn like wheels of liquid steel, below this headland. 'Tis a place that none has bottomed yet with sounding lead and line, like some huge kraken coiling vast its length. The eddy sleeps, and bending from the shores, the spotted sycamores have gazed and gazed, watching its slumber as grey giants might. A dragon in the hollow of gaunt hills, its serpent bulk wound round some magic hoard. So long they've watched, their ancient banks have grown humped, gnarled, and bent, but still they gaze and gaze, leaning above, and from the glassy waves their images stare back their wonderment. Haply they see the guardian genius lie at the dark bottom of an oozy cave of coral, webbed, recumbent on his mace of mineral, his locks of dripping green circling a crown of ore, his fishy eyes dull with the aqueous dullness of his realms. But when the storm's abroad and whips the waves with stinging lashes of the myriad rain, or scars with thunder some ancestral oak, sire of a forest, when he wakes in wrath, and on the dark foundation of the stream rises a monarch crowned with iron crown, and hurls his challenge upward at the storm, and rages through the waters, heaves and breaks through the wild caves, whose round and murky bulks, ribbed white with foam, wallow their monster way, like giant herds, along yon edge of rock, o'erstrewn with petrifactions of far time, mollusk and trilobite and honeycomb of whitest coral, and with mass on mass of root-like reptiles writhing turned to rock, huge saurian bulks that haply sported there, convolved, and in a moment, when the change which made and unmade continents and seas, that teemed and groaned with mammoth and plesiosaur, came with upheaval of the universe, through all their monster spines were struck to stone. There where uprises a wild knoll, o'erstrewn with wrecks of ancient forest, in mid-stream once rose an island, green and beautiful, with willow and beech, poplar and sycamore, a river island where the woodman built, stream guarded from the savage hunted shore, his rude log cabin. Here he sowed his maize, here saw it tassel in the summer heat, and glance like ranks of feathered Indians through the glimmering vistas of the broken wood. Here reaped and sheaved its stalks, all ivory-eared, in shocks like wigwam rose, when like a maid, an Indian maid, ruddy in dogwood beads, the autumn came soft o'er the sunset hills that blushed for love, and underneath her feet cast untold golds in leaves and yellow fruit. Here dwelt the pioneer, and here he died, and mingled his rough dust with the raw earth and loam of what was once an island, now a bed of limestone rock and water pools, where in the quarry you may see the blast spout heavenward the dust and dirt and stone, and flap and pound its echoes round the hills in giant strokes as of some Titan hammer. A mound of stump-pierced soil were once an isle, as rich and fair in forest and in field as any isle that rises to a sail in tropic seas arose to kiss the sun. There lies the other half of what was once Cornel Island. Broad the channel beats between, lower it lies, and mantled with dwarf brakes of willow and of cotton and beech, degenerate offsprings of the mighty boles that once o'erbrowed the stream in majesty of tall primeval beauty. In the morn, ere yet the east assumes its faintest blush, here you may hear the melancholy snipe piping, or see her paddling in the pools that splash the low bed of the rocky soil. Here once the Indian stole in natural craft from wahoo bush to bush, from tree to tree, his head blooms like a bird, below, above, fluttering and nodding mid the undergrowth. In his brown hand the plaint, polished bow, and in his back his gaudy quiver filled with tufted arrows headed blue with flint, and while the deep flamingo-coloured west flamed on his ruddy cheek, and airy fire struck rosy thwart the stream, he, swift as thought, strung his quick bow, and threw the grey wild goose that rose with clamour from the rushy pool, sent a fleet arrow, crest with the quills, which yesterday perhaps its mate's grey wing made beautiful, and plucked to decorate the painted shaft that should to-day speed home, and redden all their white with kindred blood. It falling, gasping at his moccasined feet, breathed out its wild life with the lonely brave, whooped to the sunset, and yon faint blue hills answered his exultation of a whoop. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fall Fancies by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. Far off a wind blew, and I heard wild echoes of the woods reply, the herald of some royal word, with bannered trumpet blown on high, meseemed, then passed me by, who summoned marvels there to meet, in pomp upon a cloth of gold, where berries of the bitter sweet, that, splitting, showed the coals they hold, sowed garnets through the wold, where under tents of maples seeds of smooth cornelian, oval red, the spice bush spangled, where like beads the dogwood's rounded rubies, fed with fire, blazed and bled. And there I saw amid the rout of months in richness cavalier, a minnesinger, lips a-pout, a gypsy face, straight as a spear, a rose stuck in his ear, eyes sparkling like old German wine, all mirth and moonlight, naught to spare of slender beard that lent a line unto his lip, October there with chestnut curling hair. His blue biretta swept its plume white through the leaves, his purple hose, puffed at the thighs, made gleam of gloom, his tawny doublet slashed with rose, and laced with crimson bows, outshone the wahoo's scarlet pride, the hall in rich vermilion dressed, a dagger dangling at his side, a slim lute banded to his breast, whereon his hands did rest. I saw him come, and lo, to hear the lilt of his approaching lute! No wonder that the regnant year bent down her beauty, blushing mute, her heart beneath his foot. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Late October by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. Bulged from its cup the dark brown acorn falls, and by its gnarly saucer, in the stream's clear puddles, swells. The sweet gum's spike-crowned bowls beside them lie, and opening all their seams, beneath the chestnut tree the hurry hulls split, and within, each nut like copper gleams. Burst silver white, nods, an exploded husk of snowy, woolly smoke. The milkweeds puff along the orchard's fence, where in the dusk and ashen weeds, as some grim satyr's rough, red, breezy cheeks burn through his beard, the brusque crab-apples glow, wind tumbled from above. And under withered leaves the cricket's clicks seem some dim dirge sighed into memory's ears. One bird sits in the sumac, flits and picks its sour seeds. Through all the woods one hears the dropping hickories. Round the haze-railed ricks, among the fields, gather the lowing steers. Some slim, bud-bound limoniad hath flocked, like birds, the flowers, herding from their homes to warmer woods and skies, where once were rocked unnumbered bees within unnumbered blooms. One feeble bee clings to one bloom, or, locked within it, dreams of summer's oozing combs. Winds shake the maples, and all suddenly a storm of leafy stars around you freaks. Some dryad's tattered raiment, to her knee wading, the naiad haunts her stream that streaks through woodland waves. Hark! Pan, for he-like, flutes in the forest, while he seeks and seeks. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A November Walk by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Foon. Morning. The hoar-frost crisps beneath the feet, and sparkling in the morning's strength, the fence along its straggling length gleams as if wrought of virgin sleet. On broom-sedge fields and sassafras, neglectfully the dim wind lifts the dead leaves, and around me drifts the milkweed, shaken from the grass. Reluctantly and one by one, the useless leaves drift slowly down, and seen through woodland vistas brown the nut-tree patters in the sun. Where pools the brook beneath its fall, with scales of ice its edges bound, and on the pebbles scattered round, the ooze is frozen, each a ball, it seems, of crystal fallen there. And now the wind sweeps through the wood with sighings, and the solitude seems shaken with a mighty care. Decay and melancholy drape the nearby hills in mysteries of mist through which the rocks and trees loom, hazy, each a phantom shape. To sullenness the surly crow all his derisive being yields, and o'er the barren stubble fields flaps, cawless, wrapped in hungry woe. Evening. As eve comes on, the teasel stoops its spike-crowned cone before the blast. The tattered leaves drive whirling past in frantic and fantastic troops. The matted elder copses sigh, their broad blue combs with berries weighed, like heavy pendulums are swayed with every gust that wanders by. Through broken walls of tangled briar that hedge the lane, the sumacs thrust their scarlet torches, red as rust, lit with the sunset's stolid fire. The eve is here, Cold, hard, and drear, the cloudless west with livid white of flaming silver walls the night, far as one star's thin ray appears. Wedged thwart the west's white luridness the wild geese wing. From roseless domes the far honk of the leader comes, lonely and harsh and colourless. The west dies down, and in its cup, shadow on shadow, pours the night. The east glows with a mystic light, the stars are keen, the moon comes up. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The White Evening by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. On hills, beneath the steely skies, the wind-tossed forests rock and roar. Along the river's ringing shore, homeward the skimming skater flies. On windy meads of icy brakes, where, sheathed in sleet, the haw tree stands, the moon looks down on glistening lands, where with the cold each bramble shakes. Last night the sleet made white the world, all day the wind moaned in the pines. Now like a wolf that whines and whines, like some wild wolf its hate is hurled against the hut upon the wold, and the one willow by the stream, where huddled in the moon's chill gleam the houseless hare leaps through the cold. The moon sinks low, the thin new moon, and with it, like a bit of spar, sinks down the large white evening star, beneath which earth seems crystal hewn. Slim o'er the tree-tops, weighed with white, the country's church spire doth swell, a scintillating icicle, while fitfully the village light stabs, stains with sallow stars the dark. Homeward the creaking wagons strain, the smithy glares, the tavern's vane points northward in its ghostly sark. And from the north, with stinging lash, driving his herds of snow and sleet, upon his steed of wind, whose feet hurl through the iron woods and crash along the hills with blow on blow, the tempest sweeps, before his shout the moon and stars are blotted out, and fold on fold rolls down the snow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Dreams by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Foon. My thoughts have borne me far away to beauties of an older day, where crowned with roses stands the dawn, striking her seven-stringed barbiton of flame, whose chords give being to the seven colours hue for hue. The music of the colour dream she builds the day from, beam by beam. My thoughts have borne me far away to myths of a diviner day, where sitting on the mountain, noon sings to the pines a sun-soaked tune of rest and shade and clouds and skies, wherein her calm dreams idealize light as a presence, heavenly fair, sleeping with all her beauty bare. My thoughts have borne me far away to visions of a wiser day, where stealing through the wilderness, night walks a sad-eyed votaress, and prays with mystic words she hears behind the thunder of the spheres, the starry utterance that is hers, with which she fills the universe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Brook by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. To it the forest tells the mystery that haunts its heart and folds its form in cognition deep, that holds the shadow of each myth that dwells in nature, be it nymph or fay or faun, and whispering of them to the dales and dells, it wanders on and on. To it the heaven shows the secret of its soul, true images of dreams that form its aspect, and with these reflected in its countenance it goes with pictures of the skies, the dusk and dawn within its breast, as every blossom knows, for them to gaze upon. Through it the world's soul sends its heart's creating pulse that beats and sings the music of maternity, whence springs all life, and shaping earthly ends, from the deep sources of the heavens drawn, planting its way with beauty on its winds, on and forever on. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old Swing by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org. Under the boughs of spring she swung in the old rope swing. Her cheeks with their happy blood glowed pink as the apple bud. Her eyes with their deep delight shone glad as the stars of night. Her curls with their romp and fun tossed hoyden to wind and sun. Her lips with their laughter shrill rippled like some wild rill. Under the boughs of spring she swung in the old rope swing, and I, who leaned on the fence watching her innocence, as under the boughs that bent, now high, now low, she went. In her soul the ecstasies of the stars, the brooks, the breeze, had given the rest of my years with their blessings and hopes and fears. To have been as she was then, and just for a moment again a boy in the old rope swing under the boughs of spring. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Autumn by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. I feel thee as one feels a flower's, a dead flower's fragrance in a room, a dim grey grief that haunts the hours with sad perfume. Thou charm'st me as a ghost lily might charm a garden's withered space, with the pale pathos and the chilly hush of thy face. I hearken in thy fogs, I hearken, when, like the phantom of dead night, with immaterial limbs they darken the day with white. With wrecks of rain and mad winds heaping, red ruins of riven rose and leaf, make sad my heart, O Autumn, sweeping the world with grief. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter Dreams by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Mira Eagle. How does it come that now I go down ways made blue with bluest eyes, along the creek road as the crow with mocking laughter flies? A wild bird beats a crippled wing to lure me from its brush-built nest. Then, like a brook, I hear it sing its wildwood happiest. Beyond the orchard hills are dells of knee-deep huckleberries, white with little bell blooms. Maytime swells with sweetness and delight. The fawn wakes in me, wild and keen, and with the joy the wraith months hold, kicks happy heels in deeps of green and rolls in deeper gold. My Shakespeare falls, I wake, and frost and ice seem every flower bed. Where once each stalk and Edgar tossed, poor Tom now shakes instead. Where once the gladoil gleaming shook a wand of folly at the sun, the humpstock hath a withered look, the poor pale fool is done. A great grey beard the rose bush hath, an old king's, where hangs many a tear, near the dead lily by the path, Cordelia and Lear. End poem. This recording is public domain.
Tansy and Sweet Elysium. A Flower of the Fields by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Bee bitten in the orchard hung the peach, or fallen in the weeds lay rotting, where still sucked and sung the gray bee, boring to the seed's pink pulp and honey blackly stung. The orchard path, which wound around the garden, with its heat one twinge of dinning locusts, picket bound and ragged, brought me where one hinge held up the gate that scraped the ground. All seemed the same. The martin box, sun-warped with pygmy balconies, still stood with all its twittering flocks perched on its pole above the peas and silvery seeded onion stalks. The clove pink and the rose, the clump of coppery sunflowers with the heat sick to the heart, the garden stump red with geranium pots and sweet with moss and ferns, this side the pump. I rested with one hesitant hand upon the gate. The lonesome day, droning with insects, made the land one dry stagnation. Soaked with hay and scents of weeds, the hot wind fanned. I breathed the sultry scents, my eyes parched as my lips, and yet I felt my limbs were ice, as one who flies to some wild woe. How sleepy smelt the hay-hot heat that soaked the skies. Noon nodded, dreamier, lonesomer, for one long plaintive forest-side bird-quaver, and I knew me near some heartbreak anguish. She had died, I felt it, and no need to hear. I passed the quince and pear tree, where all up the porch a grapevine trails. How strange that fruit, whatever air or earth it grows in, never fails to find its native flavor there. And she who was as a flower, too, that grows its proper bloom and scent, no matter what the soil. She who, born better than her place, still lent grace to the lowliness she knew. They met me at the porch, and were gaunt-eyed with weeping. Then the room shut out the country's heat and purr, and left light stricken into gloom, so love that I might look on her. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On Stony-Run by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Oh, cheerily, cheerily by the road, and merrily down the hillet, and where the bottomlands are sowed with bristle-bearded millet. Then o'er a pebbled path it goes, through woodland, dale, and dingle, unto a farmstead's windowed rose, and roof of moss and shingle. Then darkly, darkly through the bush, and dimly round the boulder, where cane and water weeds grow lush, its current clear flows colder. Then by the cedared way that leads through burr and bramble thickets, unto a burial ground of weeds, fenced in with broken pickets. Then slowly, slowly down the vale, and wearily through the rushes, where sunlight of the noon is pale, its shadowy water hushes. For oft her young face smiled upon its deep here willow shaded, And oft with bare feet in the sun, its shallows there she waded. No more beneath the twinkling leaves shall stand the farmer's daughter, softly past the cottage eaves, O memory haunted water! No more shall bend her laughing face above it where the rose is, sigh softly past the burial place where all her youth reposes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Home by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Among the fields the chamomile seems blown mist in the lightning's glare. Cool, rainy odors drench the air. Night speaks above the angry smile of storm within her stare. The way that I shall take to night is through the wood whose branches fill the road with double darkness till, between the boughs, a window's light shines out upon the hill. The fence, and then the path that goes around a trailer tangled rock, through puckered pink and hollyhock, unto a latch gate's unkempt rose, and door whereat I knock. Bright on the old time flower place, the lamp streams through the foggy pane. The door is open to the rain, and in the door her happy face, and outstretched hands again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Dusk in the Woods by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. 3 miles of trees it is, and I came through the woods that waited, dumb, for the cool summer dusk to come, and lingered there to watch the sky up which the gradual sunset clomb. A tree-toad quavered in a tree, and then a sudden whippoorwill called overhead, so wildly shrill the sleeping wood, it seemed to me, cried out, and then again was still. Then through dark boughs its stealthy flight an owl took, and at drowsy strife the cricket tuned its fairy fife, and like a ghost flower, silent white, the wood moth glimmered into life. And in the punk wood everywhere the insects ticked, or bored below the rotted bark, and glow on glow the lambent fireflies here and there lit up their jack-o'-lantern show. I heard a vesper sparrow sing, withdrawn, it seemed, into the far, slow sunset's tranquil cinnabar, the crimson softly smouldering behind gaunt trunks with its one star. A dog barked, and down ways that gleamed through dew and clover faint the noise of cowbells moved, and then a voice that sang a milking, so it seemed, made glad my heart as some glad boy's. And then the lane, and full in view a farmhouse with a rose-grown gate and honeysuckle paths, a wait for night, the moon, and love, and you. These are the things that made me late. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Comrades by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Matthew D. Robinson. Down through the woods, along the way that fords the stream, by rock and tree wherein the bramble bell the bee swings, and through twilight's green and gray the redbird flashes suddenly, my thoughts went wandering today. I found the fields where row on row the blackberries hang black their fruit, where nesting at the elder's root the partridge whistles soft and low, the fields that billow to the foot of those old hills we used to know. There lay the pond, still willow-bound, on whose bright surface, when the hot noon burnt above, we chased the knot of water-striders, while around our heads like bits of rainbow shot the dragonflies without a sound. The pond above which evening bent to gaze upon her gypsy face, wherein the twinkling night would trace a vague inverted firmament, in which the green frogs tuned their bass and firefly sparkles came and went. The old-time woods we often ranged when we were playmates, you and I. The old-time fields with boyhood's sky still blue above them. Naught was changed, nothing. Alas, then tell me why should we be whom the years estranged? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Rock by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Here, at its base, in dingled deeps of spice bush, where the ivy creeps, the cold spring scoops its hollow, and there 3 mossy stepping stones make ripple murmurs undertones of foam, whose low falls follow a voice far in the wood that drones. The quail pipes here when noons are hot, and here in coolness sunlight shot beneath a roof of briars. The red fox skulks at close of day, and here at night the shadows gray stand like Franciscan friars, with moonbeam beads whereon they pray. Here yawns the woodchuck's dark dug hole, and there the tunnel of the mole heaves under weed and flower. A sandy pitfall here and there the ant-lion digs and lies a lair, and here, for sun and shower, the spider weaves a silvery snare. The poison oak's rank tendrils twine the rock's south side, the trumpet vine, with crimson bugles sprinkled, makes green its eastern side. The west is rough with lichen, and gray pressed into an angle wrinkled. The hornets hang an oblong nest. The north is hid from sun and star, and here, like an inquisitor of fairy inquisition, who roots out elfland heresy, deep in the rock, cowled, shadowy, and grave as his commission, the owl sits magisterially. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Standing Stone Creek by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. A weed-grown slope whereon the rain has washed the brown rocks bare, leads tangled from a lonely lane down to a creek's broad stair of stone that, through the solitude, winds onward to a quiet wood. An intermittent roof of shade the beech above it throws. Along its step a balustrade of beauty builds the rose, in which a stately lamp of green, at intervals, the cedars seen. The water, carpeting each ledge of rock that runs across, glints 'twixt a flow embroidered edge of ferns and grass and moss, and in its deeps the wood and sky seem patterns of the softest dye. Long corridors of pleasant dusk within the house of leaves. It reaches where, on looms of musk, the ceaseless locust weaves a web of summer, and perfume trails a sweet gown from room to room. Green windows of the boughs that swing, it passes where the notes of birds are glad thoughts entering, and butterflies are motes. And now a vista where the day opens a door of wind and ray. It is a stairway for all sounds that haunt the woodland sides, on which boy-like the south wind bounds, girl-like the sunbeam glides, and, like fond parents following these, the old-time dreams of rest and peace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Clouds of the Autumn Night by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Clouds of the autumn night, under the hunter's moon, ghostly and windy white, wither like leaves wild strewn. Take ye your stormy flight. Out of the west, where dusk, from her red window sill, leaned with a wand of tusk, witch-like, and wood and hill, phantomed with mist and musk. Into the east, where morn sleeps in a shadowy close, shut with a gate of horn, round which the dreams she knows flutter with rose and thorn. Blow from the west, oh blow, clouds that the tempest steers, and with your rain and snow bear of my heart the tears, and of my soul the woe. Into the east then pass clouds that the night winds sweep, and on her grave sere grass, there where she lies asleep, there let them fall, alas. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Then and Now by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Matthew D. Robinson. When my old heart was young, my dear, the earth and heaven were so near that in my dreams I oft could hear the steps of airy races. In woodlands where bright waters ran, on hills God's rainbows used to span, I followed voices not of man, and smiled in spirit faces. Now my old heart is old, my sweet, no longer earth and heaven meet. All life is grown to one dull street, where fact with fancy clashes. The voices now that speak to me are prose instead of poetry, and in the faces now I see is less of flame than ashes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
By the Trysting-Beech by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Deep in the west a berry-colored bar of sunset gleams, against which one tall fir stands outlined dark, above which, courier, a dew of dreams, burns dusk's appointed star. And flash on flash, as when the elves wage war in goblin land, the fireflies bombard the silence, and like spirits o'er the sward the twilight winds, bringing fragrance from afar. And now, withdrawn into the hill-wood belts, a whippoorwill, while with attendant states of pearl and silver slow the green moon melts into the night, to show me where she waits, like some slim moonbeam, by the old beech tree, who keeps her lips fresh as a flower for me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. After Long Grief and Pain by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. There is a place hung o'er of summer boughs and dreamy skies, wherein the grey hawk sleeps, where waters flow within whose lazy deeps, like silvery prisms where the sunbeams drowse, the minnows twinkle, where the bells of cows tinkle the stillness, and the bobwhite keeps calling from meadows where the reaper reaps, and children's laughter haunts an old-time house, a place where life wears ever an honest smell of hay and honey, sun and elder bloom, like some sweet modest girl within her hair, where, with our love for comrade, we may dwell far from the city strife, whose cares consume. O take my hand, and let me lead you there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Haunted Woodland by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by rumpledpoetry. Here in the golden darkness and green night of the woods, a flitting form I follow, a shadow that eludes. Or is it but the phantom of former forest moods, the phantom of some fancy I knew when I was young, and in my dreaming boyhood, the wildwood flowers among, young, face to face with fairy, spoke in no unknown tongue. Blue were her eyes, and golden the nimbus of her hair, and scarlet as a flower her mouth that kissed me there, that kissed and bade me follow, and smiled away my care. A magic and a marvel lived in her word and look, as down among the blossoms she sate me by the brook, and read me wonder legends and nature's story-book. Loved fairy tales forgotten she never reads again, of beautiful enchantments that haunt the sun and rain, and in the wind and water chant a mysterious strain. And so I search the forest wherein my spirit feels, in stream or tree or flower, herself she still conceals. But now she flies who followed, whom earth no more reveals. End of poem. This recording's in the public domain.
Camaraderie by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. With eyes hand-arched he looks into the morning's face, then turns away, with schoolboy feet all wet with dew, out for a holiday. The hill brook sings, incessant stars foam fashioned on its restless breast, and where he wades its water bars, its song is happiest. A comrade of the Chinicopin, he looks into its naughty eyes, and sees its heart, and deep within, its soul that makes him wise. The wood thrush knows and follows him, who whistles up the birds and bees, and round him all the perfumes swim of woodland loam and trees. Where'er he pass the supple springs, foam people sing, the flowers awake, and sappy lips of bark-clad things laugh ripe each fruited brake. His touch is a companionship, his word an old authority. He comes a lyric on his lip, unstudied poesy. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Occult by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Unto the soul's companionship of things that only seem to be. Earth points with magic finger-tip and bids thee see how fancy keeps thee company. For oft at dawn hast not beheld a spirit of prismatic hue blow wide the buds which night hath swelled, and stain them through with heaven's ethereal gold and blue, while at her side another went with gleams of enigmatic white, a spirit who distributes scent to vale and height in footsteps of the rosy light. And oft at dusk hast thou not seen the star fays bring their caravans of dew and glitter all the green night shadow tans with drops the rain-hung cobweb spans, nor watched with these the elfins go, who tune faint instruments that sound like that moon music insects blow. Then haunted ground thou hast not trodden, never found. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Woodwords by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. The spirits of the forest that to the winds give voice, I lie the livelong April day, and wonder what it is they say that makes the leaves rejoice. The spirits of the forest that breathe in bud and bloom, I walk within the haw tree brake, and wonder how it is they make the bubbles of perfume. The spirits of the forest that dwell in every spring, I lean above the brook's bright blue, and wonder what it is they do that makes the water sing. The spirits of the forest that haunt the sun's green glow, down fungus ways of fern I steal, and would surprise what they conceal in dew that twinkles so. O spirits of the forest, here are my heart and hand. O send a gleam or glow-worm ray to guide my soul the firefly way that leads to fairyland. The time when dog-tooth violets hold up inverted horns of gold, the elvish cups that spring upsets with dripping feet when April wets the sun and shadow marbled wold, is come, and by each leafing way the sorrel drops pale blots of pink, and, like an angled star, a fay sets on her forehead's pallid day the blossoms of the trillium wink. Within the vale, by rock and stream, a fragile fairy porcelain, blue as a baby's eyes a-dream, the bluets blow, and gleam in gleam the sun-shot dogwoods flash with rain. It is the time to cast off care, to make glad intimates of these. The frank-faced sunbeam laughing there, the great heart wind that bids us share the optimism of the trees. The white ghosts of the flowers, the gray ghosts of the trees, rise when the April showers and haunt the wild wood bowers and trail along the breeze. The white ghosts of the flowers, the gray ghosts of the trees. Oft in the woodless places I feel their dim control, the wildflowers' perished faces, the great trees' vanished races, that meet me soul to soul. Oft in the woodless places I feel their dim control. Crab-apple buds, whose bell the mouth of April kissed, that hang like rosy shells around the naiad's wrist, pink as dawn-tinted mist. And pawpaw buds, whose dark deep auburn blossoms shake on boughs, as 'neath the bark a dryad's eyes awake, brown as a midnight lake. These, with symbolic blooms of windflower and wild phlox, I found among the glooms of hill-lost woods and rocks, lairs of the hare and fox. The beetle in the brush, the bird about the creek, the bee within the hush, and I, whose love was meek, stood still to hear these speak. The language that records in flower syllables, the hieroglyphic words of beauty, who enspells the world and, compels. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Wind at Night by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Not till the wildman wind is shrill, howling upon the hill, in every wolfish tree, whose boisterous boughs, like desperate arms, gesture and beat the night, and down huge clouds, in chasms of stormy white, the frightened moon hurries above the house. Shall I lie down and deep, letting the mad wind keep its shouting revel round me, fall asleep? Not till its dark halloo is hushed, and where wild waters rushed, like some hoofed terror underneath its whip, and spur of foam, remains a ghostly glass hill framed, whereover stains of moony mists and rains, and stealthy starbeams, still as spectres slip, shall I, with thoughts that take unto themselves the ache of silence as a sound, from sleep awake? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Airy Tongues by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. There is a song the wet leaves lisp, when morn comes down the woodland way, and misty as a thistle wisp, her gown gleams, windy gray, a song that seems to say, awake, to stay. There is a sigh when day sits down beside the sunlight lulled lagoon, while on her glistening hair and gown the rose of rest is strew. A sigh that seems to croon, come rest, 'tis noon. There is a whisper when the stars, above an evening purpled height, crown the dead day with nenuphars of fire, gold, and white. A voice that seems to invite, come love, 'tis night. Before the rathe song sparrow sings among the haw trees in the lane, and to the wind the locust flings its early clusters fresh with rain. Beyond the morning star that swings its rose of fire above the spire, between the morning's watchet wings, a wild voice rings o'er brook and boughs, arouse, arouse. Before the first brown owlet cries, among the grapevines on the hill, and in the dam with half shut eyes, the lilies rock above the mill. Beyond the oblong moon that flies, a pearly flower above the tower, between the twilight's primrose skies, a soft voice sighs from east to west, to rest, to rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rain and Wind by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Matthew D. Robinson. I hear the hoofs of horses galloping over the hill, galloping on and galloping on, when all the night is shrill with wind and rain that beats the pane, and my soul with awe is still. For every dripping window their headlong rush makes bound, galloping up and galloping by, then back again and around, till the gusty roofs ring with their hoofs and the draughty cellars sound. And then I hear black horsemen hallooing in the night. Hallooing and hallooing they ride o'er vale and height, and the branches snap and the shutters clap with the fury of their flight. Then at each door a horseman, with burly bearded lip, hallooing through the keyhole, pauses with cloak adrip, and the doorknob shakes and the panel quakes 'neath the anger of his whip. All night I hear their gallop and their wild halloos alarm. The tree-tops sound and the vanes go round in forest and on farm. But never a hair of a thing is there, only the wind and storm. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Under Arcturus by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. I belt the morn with ribboned mist, with baldricked blue I gird the moon, and dusk with purple, crimson kissed, white buckled with the hunter's moon. These follow me, the season says. Mine is the frost-pale hand that packs their scrips and speeds them on their ways with gypsy gold that weighs their backs. A daybreak horn the autumn blows, as with a sun-tanned hand he parts wet boughs whereon the berry glows, and at his feet the red fox starts. The leafy leash that holds his hounds is loosed, and all the noonday hush is startled, and the hillside sounds behind the fox's bounding brush. When red dusk makes the western sky a firelit window through the firs, he stoops to see the red fox die among the chestnut's broken burrs. Then Fen-Fire and Fen-Fire his bugle sounds, the world below grows hushed to hear, and 2 or 3 soft stars dream through the afterglow. Like some black host the shadows fall, and blackness camps among the trees. Each wildwood road a goblin hall grows populous with mysteries. Night comes with brows of ragged storm, and limbs of writhen cloud and mist. The rain wind hangs upon his arm, like some wild girl who cries unkissed. By his gaunt hands the leaves are shed in headlong troops and nightmare herds, and like a witch who calls the dead, the hill stream whirls with foaming words. Then all is sudden silence and dark fear, like his who cannot see, yet hears, lost in a haunted land, death rattling on a gallows tree. The days approach again, the days whose mantles stream, whose sandals drag, when in the haze by puddled ways the gnarled thorn seems a crooked hag, when rotting orchards reek with rain, and woodlands crumble, leaf and log, and in the drizzling yard again the gourd is tagged with points of fog. Now let me seat my soul among the wood's dim dreams, and come in touch with melancholy, sad of tongue and sweet, who says so much, so much. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Bare Boughs by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. O heart that beat the bird's blithe blood, the blithe bird's strain, and understood the song it sang to leaf and bud, what dost thou in the wood? O soul that kept the brook's glad flow, the glad brook's word to sun and moon, what dost thou here where song lies low, dead as the dreams of June? Where once was heard a voice of song, the hautboys of the mad wind sing, where once a music flowed along, the rain's wild bugles ring. The weedy water frets and ails, and moans in many a sunless fall, and o'er the melancholy trails the black crow's eldritch call. Unhappy brook, O withered wood, O days whom death makes comrades of, where are the birds that thrilled the blood when life struck hands with love? A song one soared against the blue, a song one bubbled in the leaves, a song one threw where orchards grew, red appled to the eaves. The birds are flown, the flowers are dead, and sky and earth are bleak and gray. The wild winds hang in the boughs instead, and wild leaves strew the way. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Threnody by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. The rainy smell of a ferny dell, whose shadow no sunray flaws, when autumn sits in the wayside weeds, telling her beads of haws. The phantom mist that is moonbeam kissed on hills where the trees are thinned, when autumn leans at the oak root's scarp, touching a harp of wind. The crickets chirr 'neath briar and burr, by leaf strewn pools and streams, when autumn stands 'mid the dropping nuts, with the book she shuts of dreams. The gray alas of the days that pass, and the hope that says adieu, a parting sorrow, a shriveled flower, and one ghost hour with you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Snow by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org. The moon, like a round device on a shadowy shield of war, hangs white in a heaven of ice with a solitary star. The wind is sunk to a sigh, and the waters are steeled with frost, and gray in the eastern sky the last snow cloud is lost. White fields that are winter starved, black woods that are winter fraught, and earth like a face death carved with the iron of some black thought. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Old Song by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. It's "Oh, for the hills where the wind's someone with a vagabond foot that follows, and a cheer-up hand that he claps upon your arm with the hearty words, 'Come on! We'll soon be out of the hollows, my heart, we'll soon be out of the hollows.' It's "Oh, for the songs where the hope's someone with a renegade foot that doubles, and a kindly look that he turns upon your face with the friendly laugh, 'Come on! We'll soon be out of the troubles, my heart, we'll soon be out of the troubles.'" End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Baby Mary by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org. Deep in Baby Mary's eyes, Baby Mary's sweet blue eyes, dwell the golden memories of the music once her ears heard in far-off paradise. so she has no time for tears. Baby Mary, listening to the songs she hears. Soft in Baby Mary's face, Baby Mary's lovely face. If you watch, you, too, may trace dreams her spirit self hath seen in some far-off Eden place. Once her soul she cannot wean. Baby Mary, dreaming in a world between. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Sunset Fancy by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Wide in the west a lake of flame that seems to shake, as if the Midgard snake deep down did breathe. An isle of purple glow, where rosy rivers flow down peaks of cloudy snow, with fire beneath. And there the tower of night, with windows all alight, frowns on a burning height, wherein she sleeps, young through the years of doom, veiled with her hair's gold gloom, she, the Valkyrie whom enchantment keeps. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Fen-Fire by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. The misty rain makes dim my face. The night's black cloak is o'er me. I tread the dripping cypress place, a flickering light before me. Out of the death of leaves that rot, and ooze and weedy water, my form was breathed to haunt this spot, Death's immaterial daughter. The owl that whoops upon the yew, the snake that lairs within it, have seen my wild face flashing blue for one fantastic minute. But should you follow where my eyes, like some pale lamp, decoy you, beware, lest suddenly I rise with love that shall destroy you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Wood by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Witch hazel, dogwood, and the maple here, and there the oak and hickory, linn, poplar, and the beech tree, far and near, as the east eye can see. Wild ginger, wahoo, with its flat balloons, and brakes of briars of a twilight green, and foxgrapes plumed with summer, and strung moons of mandrake flowers between. Deep gold green ferns, and mosses green and gray, mats for what naked myth's white feet, and cool and calm a cascade far away, with ever even beat. Old logs made sweet with death, rough bits of bark, and tangled twig and knotted root, and sunshine splashes and great pools of dark, and many a wild bird's flute. Here let me sit until the Indian dusk, with copper-colored face, comes down, sowing the wildwood with star-fire and musk, and shadows blue and brown. Then side by side with some magician dream, I'll take the owlet haunted lane, half roofed with vines, led by a firefly gleam that brings me home again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Woodnotes by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. There is a flute that follows me from tree to tree, a water flute a spirit sets to silver lips in waterfalls, and through the breath of violets a sparkling music calls. Hither, halloo, oh follow, down leafy hill and hollow, where through clear swirls, with feet like pearls, wade down the blue-eyed country girls. Hither, halloo, oh follow. There is a pipe that plays to me from tree to tree, a bramble pipe an elfin holds to golden lips in berry brakes, and swinging o'er the elder wolds, a flickering music makes. Come over the new mown clover, come over the fresh cut hay, where, there by the berries, with cheeks like cherries, and locks with which the warm wind marries, brown girls are hilling the hay all day. Come over the fields and away, come over, come over. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Hills of the West by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Hills of the West that gird forest and farm, home of the nesting bird, housing from harm, when on your tops is heard storm. Hills of the West that bar belts of the gloam, under the twilight star, where the mists roam, take ye the wanderer home. Hills of the West that dream, under the moon, making of wind and stream, late heard and soon, parts of your lives that seem tune. Hills of the West that take silence to ye, be it for sorrow's sake or memory, part of such silence make me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Wind of Spring by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. The wind that breathes of columbines and celandines that crowd the rocks, that shakes the balsam of the pines with music from his airy locks, stops at my city door and knocks. He calls me far a forest where the twin leaf and the bloodroot bloom, and circled by the amber air, life sits with beauty and perfume, weaving the new web of her loom. He calls me where the waters run, through fronding fern where wades the hern, and sparkling in the equal sun, song leans beside her brimming urn, and dreams the dreams that love shall learn. The wind has summoned, and I go to con God's meaning in each line. The wild flowers right, and walking slow, God's purpose of which song is sign, the wind's great gusty hand in mine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Willow Bottom by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Lush green the grass that grows between the willows of the bottom land, edged by the careless water, tall and green, the brown-topped cattails stand. The cows come gently here to browse, slow through the great-leafed sycamores. You hear a dog bark from a low-roofed house, with cedars round its doors. Then all is quiet as the wings of the one buzzard floating there. Anon a woman's high-pitched voice that sings an old camp-meeting air. A cock that flaps and crows and then, heard drowsy through the rustling corn, a flutter and the cackling of a hen within a hay-sweet barn. How still again! No water stirs, no wind is heard, although the weeds are waved a little, and from silk-filled burrs drift by a few soft seeds. So drugged with dreams the place that you expect to see her gliding by, hummed round of bees, through blossoms spilling dew, the spirit of July. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Red Bird by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org. Narrated by M.H. Herlove. The red bird, red clouds and reddest flowers, and now 2 redder wings, swim through the rosy hours, red wings among the flowers. And now the red bird sings. God makes the red clouds ripples, of flame that seem to split, in rubies and in dripples, of rose where rills and ripples, the singing flame that lit. Red clouds of sauntered splendor, God whispered one small word, rich, sweet, and wild and tender, straight in the vibrant splendor, the word became a bird. He flies beneath the garnet of clouds that flame and float, when summer hears the hornet hum round the plum turned garnet, heaven's music in his throat. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Clearing by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Before the wind, with rain-drowned stalks, the pleated crimson hollyhocks are bending, and smouldering in the breaking brown, above the hills that rim the town, the day is ending. The air is heavy with the damp, and one by one each cottage lamp is lighted. Infrequent passers of the street stroll on or stop to talk or greet, benighted. I look beyond my city yard, and watch the white moon struggling hard, cloud buried. The wind is driving toward the east, a wreck of pearl, all cracked and creased, and serried. At times the moon, erupting, streaks some long cloud raised in mountain peaks of shadow, that seamed with silver, vein on vein, grows to a far volcano chain of El Dorado. The wind that blows from out the hills is like a woman's touch that stills a sorrow. The moon sits high with many a star in the deep calm, and fair and far abides tomorrow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Autumn Sorrow by Madison Cawein, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Ah me, too soon the autumn comes among these purple plaintive hills. Too soon among the forest gums premonitory flame she spills, bleak melancholy flame that kills. Her white fogs veil the morn that rims with wet the moon's flowers' elfin moons, and like exhausted starlight dims the last slim lily disk, and swoons with scents of hazy afternoons. Her gray mists haunt the sunset skies, and build the west's cadaverous fire, where a sorrow sits with lonely eyes, and hands that wake her ancient lyre beside the ghost of dead desire. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Dark Day of Summer by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Through summer walks the world today, with corn-crowned hours for her guard. Her thoughts have clad themselves in gray, and wait in autumn's weedy yard. And where the larkspur and the phlox spread carpets for her feet to pass, she stands with sombre, dripping locks, bound bleak with fog-washed zinnias. Sad terracotta colored flowers, whose disks the trickling wet has tinged with dingy lustre, like the bowers, flame-flicked with leaves the frost has singed. She, with slow feet, mid gaunt gold blooms of marigolds her fingers twist, passes, dim swathed in fall's perfumes, and dreams of sullen rain and mist. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Days and Days by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. The days that clothed white limbs with heat, and rocked the red rose on their breast, have passed with amber sandaled feet into the ruby gated west. These were the days that filled the heart with overflowing riches of life, in whose soul no dream shall start, but hath its origin in love. Now come the days gray huddled in the haze, whose foggy footsteps drip, who pin beneath a gypsy chin the frosty marigold and hip. The days whose forms fall shadowy athwart the heart, whose misty breath shapes saddest sweets of memory out of the bitterness of death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Drouth in Autumn by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Gnarled acorn oaks against a west of copper cavernous with fire, a wind of frost that gives no rest to such lean leaves as haunt the brier, and hide the cricket's vibrant wire. Sere, shivering shocks, and stubble blurred with bramble blots of dull maroon, and creekless hills whereon no herd finds pasture, and where o'er the loon flies, haggard as the rainless moon. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In Summer by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. When in dry hollows hilled with hay the Vesper sparrow sings afar, and golden gray dusk dies away beneath the amber evening star. There, where a warm and shadowy arm the woodland lays around the farm, I'll meet you at the tryst, and kiss your lips no man hath kissed. I'll meet you at the twilight tryst, with a hey and a ho, sweetheart, I'll kiss you at the tryst. When clover fields smell cool with dew, and crickets cry, and roads are still, and faint and few the fireflies strew the dark where calls the whippoorwill. There in the lane where sweet again the petals of the wild rose rain, I'll take in mine your hand, and say the words you'll understand, your soft hand nestling in my hand, with a hey and a ho, sweetheart, all loving hand in hand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In Winter by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. When black frosts pluck the acorns down, and in the lane the waters freeze, and thwart red skies the wildfowl flies, and death sits grimly in the trees, when home lights glitter through the brown of dusk like shaggy eyes, before the door his feet, sweetheart, and two white arms that greet, sweetheart, and two white arms that greet. When ways are drifted with the leaves, and winds make music in the thorns, and lone and lost above the frost the new moon shows its silver horns, when underneath the lamplit eaves the open door is crossed, a happy heart and light, sweetheart, and lips that kiss good night, sweetheart, and lips that kiss good night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On the Farm by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Greg Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. He sang a song as he sowed the field at break of day, when the pursed up leaves are as lips that yield balm and balsam, and spring concealed in the odorous green is so revealed. Hello, and oh, hello for the woods and the far away. He trilled a song as he mowed the mead as noon begun, when the hills are gold with the ripened seed, as the sunset stares of the clouds that lead to the sky where summer knows naught of need. Hello, and oh, hello for the hills and the harvest sun. He hummed a song as he swung the flail in the afternoon, when the idle fields are a wrecker's tale, that the autumn tells to the twilight pale, as the year turns seaward a crimson sail. Hello, and oh, hello for the fields and the hunter's moon. He whistled a song as he shouldered his axe in the evening storm, when the snow of the road shows the rabbit's tracks, and the wind is a whip that the winter cracks, or the herdsman's cry o'er the clouds' black backs. Hello, and oh, hello for home and a fire to warm. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Paths by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Greg Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. What words of mine can tell the spell of garden ways I know so well? The path that takes me in the spring, past quince trees where the bluebirds sing, where peonies are blossoming, unto a porch wisteria hung, around whose steps may lilies blow. A fair girl reaches down among, her arm more white than their sweet snow. What words of mine can tell the spell of garden ways I know so well? Another path that leads me when the summer time is here again, past hollyhocks that shame the west, when the red sun has sunk to rest, to roses bowering a nest, a lattice 'neath which mignonette and deep geraniums surge and soft, where in the twilight, starless yet, a fair girl's eyes are stars enough. What words of mine can tell the spell of garden ways I know so well? A path that takes me when the days of autumn wrap the hills in haze, beneath the pippin pelting tree, mid flitting butterfly and bee, unto a door where, fiery, the creeper climbs, and garnet hued, the coxcomb and the dahlia flare, and in the door, where shades intrude, gleams bright a fair girl's sunbeam hair. What words of mine can tell the spell of garden ways I know so well? A path that brings me through the frost of winter when the moon is tossed in clouds beneath great cedars weak, with shaggy snow past shrubs blown bleak, with shivering leaves to eaves that leak the tattered ice, whereunder is a fair flickering window space, and in the light with lips to kiss a fair girl's welcome giving face. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Song in Season by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. When in the wind the vane turns round, and round, and round, and in his kennel whines the hound, when all the gable eaves are bound with icicles of ragged grey, a tattered grey, there's little to do and much to say, and you hug your fire and pass the day with a thought of the springtime, dearie, when late at night the owlet hoots, and hoots, and hoots, and wild winds make of keyholes flutes, when to the door the goodman's boots stamp through the snow, the light strains red, the firelight's red, there is nothing to do, and all is said, and you quaff your cider and go to bed, and dream of the summer, dearie. When nearing dawn the black cock crows, and crows, and crows, and from the barn the milk cow lows, and the milkmaid's cheeks have each a rose, and the still skies show a star or two, or one or two. There's little to say and much to do, and the heartier done the happier you, with a song of the winter, dearie. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Before the End by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. How does the autumn in her mind conclude the tragic masque her frosty pencil writes, brought on the pages of the days and nights, and burning lines of orchard, wood, and wood, what lonelier forms that at the year's door stood, at spectral wait with wildly wasted lights, shall enter, and with melancholy rites, inaugurate their sadder sisterhood. Sorrow, who lifts a signal hand, and slow the green leaf fevers, falling ere it dies. Regret, whose pale lips summon, and gaunt woe wakes the wild wind harps with sonorous sighs. And Sleep, who sits with poppied eyes, and sees the earth and sky grown dream accessories. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Hoar-Frost by Madison Cawein. Read for LibriVox.org by Giordano. Newport Richey, Florida. The frail eidolons of all blossoms spring, year after year about the forest tossed, the magic touch of the enchanter, Frost, back from the heaven of the flowers doth bring, each branch and bush in silence visiting, with phantom beauty of its blooms long lost. Each dead weed bends, white haunted of its ghost, each dead flower stands ghostly with blossoming. This is the wonder legend nature tells, to the grey moon and mist a winter's night, the fairy tale which from her fancy wells, with all the glamour of her soul's delight, before the summoning sorcery of her eyes, rising as might a dream materialize. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.